Hello, everybody. How's everyone doing? I hope you guys are ready today. We got another theory review. It's been a while since we did the last one. Yeah, hello, Nakama. How's everyone doing? Thank you for all the members' messages. Thank you. Lonely Mage said, oh, better throw this your way. Haven't been here in a while. We missed you, man. Thank you for being here. Appreciate the message. Killer Comedy, what's up, bro? He said, like these stream, we have virtual cookies. Appreciate the members' message, brother. And another like D stream ×2 from Dilcor. You guys are the best. Thank you. Guys, you might have noticed we got this. I mean, the chat is kind of blocking it now. But I did buy the whiteboard like I said I was going to. So we got our accountability list on here. I told you we were going to be doing this every week. I'm sticking to it. So real quick, if your name is on this, it's going to be hard to run through it every time, especially as this list gets on longer. But if your name is on this accountability list, guys, my man's Partha, Daniel C, Moog, ZMP 323, Atlas 100, Hassan, Francisco Rodas, AYG, Debus, Silmo, Vagabond Valley, Camden Smorky, JD Cub, Lukatsky, LGO Dog, Chaozu, Jackson Brown, Johannes, Majin Crow, Prince of all Anime, Krishna, and I Was I. If your name is on here, my guys, I hope that you guys worked a little bit harder towards your goals this week. And worked towards them and made that step that you needed to make. I did my stuff as I promised. I had my boxing session yesterday. I did some training. My coach told me it was the best one I've done so far, so I'm feeling good about that. So yes, we got the accountability whiteboard. Nice thing about this is it's double-sided. So we're actually going to be using or repurposing the other side of this for theory review today. Hold on, let me figure out how to set this up. There we go. Boom. So now it's a blank whiteboard. What's going to be cool about this is I'm going to be able to keep track of stuff on here that I would normally not be able to keep track of. Like, for example, the theories, what we vote on the theories, what we rate them, so on and so forth. Been going through it lately. Sorry, man. It looks like everyone's been slacking lately. Guys, I gotta admit to you, even though I did go to my boxing session as scheduled this past week, I haven't trained as much as I did the past few weeks, so I'm with you guys. I understand. I know that sometimes, you know, you're gonna have to have those times where you slack a little bit. That's all good, but it's just important to keep you accountable, keep you on track, just to remind you that maybe next week it can be different. So that's all good. No worries at all, my friends. I hope all of you have still been doing okay. Otherwise, I mean, I've been busy with the Akainu video. I hope you guys all liked that one. That took a while to put together. 50 minutes is a long time for a theory. To edit together something that's 50 minutes long is damn. I didn't leave this chair. I was in this chair for like 3 days straight, just editing all day. But it was worth it. It seems to be doing very well. Yeah, it seems to be doing very well. The video's already at like 75k views, which is insane. Wasn't ready for that. Yeah, Marth said this list is new to me. Yeah, you haven't been here in a minute, Marth. So what we've been doing is we just been, you know, I was updating everyone on like, you know, my physical fitness stuff and like how I was doing boxing and like, you know, trying to live up to my man Kobe and Garp. I was trying to be like Garp the Fist. So I'm working on my boxing, I'm working on my form, my punching, all that, trying to get my strength up. And I've been updating people, and some other people were mentioning to me in the chat that they had their own goals that they've been working towards. So I said, why don't we just be accountability buddies? Why don't we all hold each other accountable for our goals? So I took names down, and now we have an accountability list. We touch base every week just to make sure everyone's, you know, staying on track. So I think it's a fun idea. And it's definitely been helpful for me, because anytime I'm thinking, you know, like, oh man, I don't know if I want to go to the gym today, but the chat, I gotta come back to chat with a report. You know, I can't just come back with nothing. So it's a pretty good motivator, at least for me, and I hope it is for you guys too. Krim said, I really like the potential idea for the Marines and world government separating. Yeah, man. Yeah, I hope that is how it goes. I've always imagined that the Marines could exist separate from the world government. The big issue with why the Marines are so, like, corrupt and so messed up, it's partially because they got the world government for a boss. If my boss was the Gorosei, I mean, I'd probably be ordered to do some horrible shit. Not to say that the Marines you know, there's a lot of Marines that are accountable for their own actions. You know, Akainu's not a good guy, regardless of what the Gorosei say to him. But there's a lot of Marines that have noble, you know, goals, dispositions. You know, they're good people, Fujitora, Smoker, so on and so forth, but they're just tied to this awful organization. So I've always wanted the Marines and the world government to be separate at some point, or for a lot of Marines, you know, I made that MGTOW joke in the video, Marines going their own way. I want that to happen, actually. I want the Marines to break off from the world government and do their own thing, at least under Sakazuki, because for him, it would make the most sense to me, right? You have a guy like Sakazuki who wants to be his own boss. He doesn't like taking orders from anyone. He's bloodlusted for pirates. I mean, the dude has his own agenda that he's trying to pursue, and his bosses keep getting in the way of letting him do that. So I've always wanted to just see what happens if you let Akainu off the hook. Like, you just let him do what he wants. Like, what that would look like in the story. And out of any Marine that's in charge, that could be in charge, I think he's like the perfect guy to set up a Marine insurrection where the Marines break off from the world government and Akainu goes full, like, military dictator mode and tries to take matters into his own hands with the pirates. I think that would be pretty intense. So, you know, it also just lines up with a lot of the character setup that Oda's been doing, the motivations that he's got going on there. So I think it's a possibility. Will it happen? We'll see. Sometimes I think things in One Piece might be more straightforward than we predict. And, you know, even if we put together all the logic, we find all the bits and pieces, the info that supports the theories, there's a lot of times where I feel like maybe the solution's a lot simpler. And it doesn't have to be some overcomplicated thing where characters end up changing allegiances and stuff like that. That's what I would like, because I think it makes the story more layered. It adds a lot more depth to these villains. I don't want all the villains just to be cartoonishly evil. I feel like we kind of got enough of that with, you know, Kaido and Doflamingo, Big Mom. I'm kind of looking for, I'm kind of looking for a villain that is going to have a little bit more depth to them, and I think that's all going to come in the final saga. Not to say that Dofi didn't have depth. He was cartoonishly evil, but he was also a very deep character. So point of what I'm trying to say is, I think that Oda is saving the big guns for, like, late in the story, like the characters that are really going to have a lot of, like, connections to other characters, really strong motivations that influence their philosophy. And I think, you know, Akainu, Blackbeard, Emu, these are characters that, like, I would say they all believe in their philosophies as much as Luffy believes in his goal to become Pirate King or whatever. They're all, like, completely adamant, set in stone, not going to change. So it's going to be really cool to see, you know, how they clash. Will you have, Johan Caravan asks, will you have empathy if Oda has a flashback to Akainu? I think yeah. I think it's fine to empathize with a guy and also recognize that he's a bad person. Right? I can empathize with the child Akainu that was put through hell that turned him into a monster. Right? Like, I can recognize he's a monster now, but I can also see his past and empathize with that and be like, well, you know, he was also a victim of circumstance. And that doesn't excuse his actions, right? But the point is that if I'm looking at a flashback of young Akainu, or he's like a 10-year-old, and his island, let's say, if I'm right about this, his island is being ravaged by pirates, there's no Marines to stop them, maybe they're too poor to pay the Celestial Dragon's tribute, so they got no world government protection. His island is getting destroyed by pirates, and Akainu, you know, watches the people around him die, and he's forced to kind of take matters into his own hands, fight pirates himself as a kid. Being involved in very violent, very deadly things as a kid is going to warp your mind pretty severely. So to me, it's like, you know, if that's what he's going through and I'm sitting there watching a 10-year-old Akainu go through that or whatever, yeah, of course I'm going to empathize with that. I'm going to feel bad for him. But then I'm also going to be happy when he gets duffed in the face later for being a monster, because One Piece has shown us time and time again that bad circumstances like that don't necessarily mean that you have to turn into an awful person, right? Here's a really interesting twist on this, and this is something I didn't bring up in the video, but it's kind of like lingered in my head ever since I was writing that script, was, okay, think about it this way. Let's say Akainu's past is what I'm describing. Just for the sake of this argument, assume this. Akainu's past, he was on an island that was too poor to pay the celestial tribute, the heavenly tribute, and because of this, they had no protection from the world government. His island was ravaged by pirates, and he was basically orphaned and forced to fight for himself at a young age. Does that sound like any other character that we've heard of? Sounds like a lot like Whitebeard's past. Whitebeard had the exact same scenario as a kid himself. Whitebeard grew up on an island that couldn't pay the heavenly tribute. I'm getting an emergency alert on my phone. Real quick, I'm going to mention this. It's raining like crazy outside. If for whatever reason the internet or the power cuts out and the stream just ends randomly, it's because there's an insane storm happening right now. So I apologize in advance. Anyway, yeah, Whitebeard's past is the same. Whitebeard grew up on an island that couldn't afford to pay the heavenly tribute. They were absolutely eviscerated by pirates constantly, and because of this, Whitebeard's hometown was ruined. He was orphaned, lacked a family, and then had to defend himself. He had to use his natural strength to defend himself. So, you know, thinking about it that way, it's like it's Oda showing us, number one, that two characters in the same circumstances can come out two completely different ways, because you have Akainu and Whitebeard. These two guys fought each other head-to-head in Marineford, and Akainu basically is responsible for Whitebeard's death, at least in large part. He was the one that delivered like multiple death blows to the guy before Blackbeard ever even did anything. If Blackbeard didn't show up to Marineford, Whitebeard would have been dead regardless, because he got half his face blown off and a hole in his chest the size of a fucking bowling ball. So, the way I see it, he was dead anyway. Akainu basically sealed the deal on the guy. He's dead, right? So, like, those two were fighting head-to-head. Like, Akainu is responsible for that. And it's ironic because Akainu ended up killing and was fighting maybe one of the only people in that battlefield that truly understood his life, that truly understood where he was coming from, right? If they did have the same childhood, the fact that they were both enemies on opposite sides of the battlefield, the fact that Akainu's mind was so warped to hate Whitebeard, despite not totally maybe realizing that they're more birds of a feather than he might think. Maybe Akainu has more in common with Whitebeard's upbringing than any other character. And the irony is that Whitebeard became a pirate and Akainu became a marine. And look at that different perspective. One thinks that we have to destroy all pirates. The other just wants to find a family and wants to make friends with all pirates, forgive them, right? Here's another thing with the dichotomy. Akainu is not forgiving. One of his subordinates, here's another really, really crazy flip on the message here. We have two scenarios in Marineford where a subordinate essentially betrays the goodwill of their superior. We have a marine who attempts to leave the battlefield to go back home to their family, and Akainu with this small trespassing of the Marine Code. Akainu decides to execute the man brutally on the spot. Okay? So this guy made one little mistake that could be conceived as a betrayal, and Akainu responded by murdering him. Meanwhile, Whitebeard gets stabbed through the chest by his subordinate, and he forgives him. Not only doesn't he kill him, but he forgives him. So it's like, man, you have these two guys that, if that's true about Akainu's past, and they are the same childhood, like Whitebeard and Akainu, if they do have the same childhood, the fact that we see how their philosophies branched off of this same experience, and you have one guy who can't even forgive the slightest betrayal, and another guy who can forgive even the greatest betrayal, it's just such a, like, insane. You know what? You guys see what I'm getting at here? Like, it's pretty insane. It's pretty. I think if that's the past that Oda is cooking up for Akainu, that has to be, you know, one of the best setups, I think, in terms of, like, just like character, like background and motivation. Like, that's all so cool to me. I would love to see that really play out and explore how, you know, Akainu's past might have influenced him differently. So that's cool stuff, man. Johan Brandrup Bachman asks, hey Hidden, could you add me to the accountability list lately? I've been slacking a bit on Kendo lately. Absolutely, my friend. Let me add you right now. Okay, hold on. me just make sure I get your name right. I'm just going to put Johann Bachmann because otherwise it's going to take up the whole line on its own. All right, let me just write that. All right, cool. You're on the list, buddy. Guys, with all that being said, I think Akainu is a really interesting character. I think there's potentially a lot of cool like parallels that Oda might be setting up with his past related to another character that we were just discussing. So yeah, I'm excited to see how this whole thing with Kuma plays out, how his arc in the final saga plays out. I think there's more to him than meets the eye, personally. So yeah. Are you a Vince mode because you're cooking right now? Thank you, Robin. Yeah, so thank you guys. I see some people showing love to the video and the Akainu theory. I'm glad you guys. I'm happy to hear you guys liked it because it's always, it's always a big pressure, or like it's kind of nerve-wracking, right? When you spend so long working on a video and then you hit the upload button and you're not exactly sure how it's gonna do. You're like, are people gonna like this? Are people gonna watch this? And it's always nice to see that it's well received and it's doing well. So yeah, that's it makes it very worth the effort that went in. It's very rewarding for me. Moog says Misty's theory review streams. What's up, bro? Akainu vid was top tier. Thank you, man. Welcome. All right, so with that being said, that's enough of my theories. Today we're going to be talking about other people's theories. This is a day for not Hidden Island theories, okay, guys? This is other content creators' theories today. I want to watch a few videos. I got one there's one that came out today that I'm very, very excited to watch. Some of you may have already seen it, caught it earlier today that it came out. It was live. But if you know what it is, I'm going to keep it as a surprise for now, but we'll get there. But we got 3 theories to watch today. I want to see what other people in the community are thinking about, what they're theorizing about, where the story, is might go, according to other people, because it's always interesting to get other perspectives. And before we get started, I see we got a $5 super chat from Terrence Matthews. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. He said, I think we'll get a 3-way battle between Luffy, Shanks, and Blackbeard, Master of Haki, Master of Devil Fruits, and a balance between both. That's a really interesting idea, and I think it makes sense, right? Because a lot of people anticipated the Shanks and Blackbeard kind of like reunion or like meeting again, right? Because they talk about each other all the time. Or rather, Shanks talks about Blackbeard a lot. Shanks is on Blackbeard's ass. So I'm anticipating, yeah, that they do come face to face again, and maybe through that we learn what exactly is weird about Blackbeard, like what, how he even put the scar on Shanks in the first place. So, it would make sense if Luffy was there for that, because Luffy's probably going to be meeting Shanks soon as well. So, yeah, that makes sense to me. I like that idea. It never really hit me how important it is, but, I mean, for considering the scar on Shanks' eye is like a major part of his character design, it's kind of crazy to think about that we have no idea how that happened. Like, we know that Blackbeard did it, but we don't know how he did it. Like, what exactly led to that scar? When exactly it happened? What were the circumstances? Did Shanks encounter Blackbeard? Here's another thing to think about, right? Did Shanks get the scar from Blackbeard while Blackbeard was still a Whitebeard pirate? Like, was this before Blackbeard went off? Because he had the scar from the beginning, right? From the beginning of the story. So that means that Blackbeard gave him the scar while he was on the Whitebeard crew. What were the circumstances that led to Shanks fighting Blackbeard as a Whitebeard pirate? That's what I also want to know. Anyway, Krim, thank you for the 14 Canadian dollars. That's your first super chat. I appreciate that very much. Thank you, man. He said, I have a crackhead theory. What if Blackbeard was immortal? I don't have a ton of time to write out why I think this, but it could definitely be interesting. I just want to throw that out there. Unfortunately, the reason I don't think that's the case is because in a very recent chapter, Blackbeard was fighting Law, and he specifically mentioned, like, he was talking about the op fruit to Law, and he asked him, "Can it make me immortal?" in an excited way. He was excited by the idea of being made immortal by the fruit. So I'm gonna assume he's not already immortal. Otherwise, he wouldn't give a shit about Law's fruit if he was, you know. So that's why I don't think that's the case. But I think that maybe becoming immortal is a goal of his. I think that would make much more sense. In fact, I think that's almost a guarantee, right? If you want to be king of the world, why not be king of the world forever, right? If you're already going that far, why not just be king of the world forever? If you can be immortal, why not, right? So that's what I'm assuming. D. LaJoy Boy, thank you for the $5. They said, "Hey Hidden, did you get a chance to read the theory I put in the Discord? It's about the will of a D being the will to die." I know. You know what? I'm so sorry, man. I know you mentioned this to me in the last stream. I never got a chance to read it. I gotta be honest. I'm so sorry about that. But if you can tag me, like if you're in the Discord, just give me a tag, like respond to the original post, hit me with a tag, and then I'm gonna get a chance to probably read it later tonight. So I appreciate the super chat. I'm sorry about that, man. I didn't get a chance to check it out, but I would like to. I definitely would. Would it be a possibility that Shanks lost Mihawk as a crew member in a Davy back fight from the Shy Wizard? That would be a little bit anticlimactic, wouldn't it? That would be like if that was the reason, I think a lot of Mihawk fans would be upset. And I'm the first guy to like make fun of when Mihawk fans don't like a theory, they just get super angry. But I gotta be honest here, I think we gotta throw them a bone. Mihawk did not get lost to a Davy back fight. If Mihawk was on the Red Hair Pirates and now he's not, I think the entire reason he's not currently is because he realized that his captain is in the way of his goal, and he believes that he can be stronger than his captain, and he didn't respect Shanks, so he left the crew and went on his own, right? That's the only. I don't know if it would be a Davy back fight. However, I will say, like I said in the video, if a temporary reunion with the Red Hair Pirates was to happen, it would make sense for it to happen through a Davy back fight, because I can't imagine Mihawk would willfully go back to that crew since he's already part of the Cross Guild with Buggy and Crocodile. But hey, the whole aesthetic of a circus and like circus performers and all that stuff, that is prime time for a Davy back fight. Like that is ideal Davy back fight scenario. That crew, Buggy's whole crew, is perfect for a Davy back fight. So if you have one where it's like the Straw Hats versus the Red Hairs versus the Cross Guild and it's a three-way Davy back fight, that could be sick. And having Mihawk get lost in one of the rounds and get brought back onto the Red Hairs temporarily would be really funny and cool. And it'd be a great way to reveal that past that they have together. So yeah, I'm excited. I honestly think the next Davy back fight is going to make the first one... I mean, obviously the first one already sucks. A lot of people don't like it. But I think the next Davy back fight is going to be actually entertaining, and people are going to forget the first one existed, and if they didn't, they're at least going to forgive its existence because it's set up for the actual good Davy back fight. You know, the real one with real opponents, not Foxy. Yeah. All right, guys. With that being said, I want to get to the theories. We got 3 to get to through today. We have 2 shorter ones, about 15 minutes a pop. And then we got a longer one at 30 minutes. So we got basically an hour of theories to get through. So let's just jump right into it, shall we? Thank you for all the super chats, all the donations. I really appreciate that. And you know, anytime you want to, like with Joy Boy, Dealer Joy Boy, if you want to share a theory with me, I feel bad that you had to send a super chat to remind me. But you know, if you guys do want me to check out your theories, feel free to just like throw them in the theory channel in Discord. Hit me with a tag. I won't always be able to be on top of that and check them, but you know, whenever I can, I do like to see what you guys are saying and what everyone's thinking. I had someone in my comment section for one of my recent videos. They were hitting me with amazing analysis and theories in the comments. Like, I told them that they should make their own YouTube channel because they had some crazy ideas. Let me actually give them a shout out real quick. I have to double check what their username was so I don't forget. Yeah, digital addict. It's spelled Digital X Addict. Yo, my man, you make you have crazy ideas up there, man, up in your head, man. I love some of the stuff that you were hitting me with in the comments. So yeah, guys, always feel free to share with me your theories. I appreciate that a lot too. And yeah, with that being said, let's get to Sawyer 7 Mage's video. This is the first theory of the stream, the secret that will end Egghead Island. All right, let's do it. Let's pause the music here. Make sure the volume's up, and let's go.
Shown a repeated pattern of thinking that Luffy has now shown a repeated pattern of thinking that holograms are the same thing as the ghosts produced by Perona's Devil Fruit power, because he made the same comment while fighting Kizaru's light clones as he did when he believed that Atlas was a hologram.
Let me know if the volume is too low or if you guys can't hear it or something, and then I'll adjust it.
Countering several of them in the Fabrio phase. And speaking of Atlas, the final panel with Saturn makes it pretty clear that the plan that she decided to put into effect this week will be soon turned on its head. See, the reason Atlas thought that it was a good idea to go downstairs to give the pacifistas a new order in the first place is because she's under the belief that her and the other Vegapunks are the highest authority currently at Egghead that could command the pacifistas, which isn't true. Saturn is. Except she doesn't know that yet because Saturn didn't want anybody to find out that he was there. So, aside from Jujutsu Kaisen breaking the intestines of the internet this week could also be said to mark the opening of the door for Saturn to be involved in the conflict of Egghead. So what if he ends up getting killed? I think a Gorosei dying would merit the headline of Major Incident at Egghead That Shocks the World. By the way, Borsalino has been 10 out of 10 holding it down here, man. And something to note here is that as of this week,
if he dies, if Saturn dies at Egghead, I would lose my mind.
Borsalino has now officially used all 3 of his techniques that are referencing sacred Japanese.
It can be higher? Okay, let me turn this up then.
Treasures, which include a mirror, a jewel, and a sword. He used the mirror, Yata no Kagami technique, to bypass the sea beast at the shore and to get into the island. Then he used the sacred jewel technique, Yasakani no Magatama, to attack Sentomaru. And then this week, he also used it again as he was flying above the water to disperse himself and get himself back into the island. And then finally, he gave each of his clones a sword. And that sword is called the Amanomura Kumo. And again, I'm a huge fan of how he's been able to maintain his composure throughout all of this. I mean, in a way, he's actually trolling Luffy right back with his use of sarcasm. Oh, no! Be gentle, Mr. Yonko. And because we've already seen him use those 3 techniques already, I'm pretty sure we should be getting to see some new ones pretty soon. And again, in addition to fighting a Yonko, he has 3 things that he needs to protect. Possibly 4, if Saturn gets involved. After this is over, Kizaru should be getting the equivalent of the One Piece Medal of Honor just for attempting this.
And just as a quick side note here, I really enjoyed the official English translation of Kizaru's dialogue as well, because he says, now, let's not get carried away.
Now, York actually told Gorosei recently that she needs the power plant at Egghead in order to be able to create the mother flame that they want. So if the lab gets destroyed on accident during the fighting, I'm pretty sure the Gorosei would have no problem whatsoever with changing their minds and then giving the order to have York killed there at the island.
100%.
Additionally, Bonnie being significantly younger than we initially thought that she was does bring up some questions in regards to moments like these and how long ago they actually happened. It gets me to wonder if her devil fruit power had like a side effect similar to Sugar's Hobby no Mi, which physically stops the user from aging after they've consumed the fruit. And that's why Sugar looks like she's
that's
10.
the thing, right? That's something I've always wondered, because like, okay, recently, right, the whole thing has been coming up in the lines of like Bonnie being a kid and how young is Bonnie really. But like we see, all right, level with me here. We see Bonnie being held up as a baby by Bartholomew Kumo while he's still, I'm assuming it's while he's still king of the Sorbet Kingdom. That's what it looks like. He's wearing like these robes or whatever. If that's the case, then that had to have happened a long ass time ago, because Kuma's been a warlord for a minute. Like everything with like Kuma currently is way different from when he was king of the Sorbet Kingdom. I don't know what the timeline on that is, but I don't think it was just 2 years ago or whatever, or like a few years ago. So if Bonnie was a kid back when Kuma was king of Sorbet, it wouldn't make sense for Bonnie to still be a kid now, all this time later, unless what Sawyer is saying is correct, is that it's like the side effect of the devil fruit is that you get perma-frozen as a kid But I'm still very confused about the Bonnie age thing because I don't understand the time frame that this is all supposed to have happened within. At first, I was like, okay, yeah, makes sense. Bonnie's still a kid, and her fruit aged her up or whatever. But then I'm trying to fit it in my head, and I'm like, wait, then when the hell was Bonnie born? When did this happen? Because if she's Kuma's daughter, this had to have happened, and she's still a kid. This had to have happened within the last like handful of years. Like this is recent, but that it doesn't really line up with the timeline. ZMP323, thank you for the members message. He said, love the Akainu video, enjoyed your analysis, your explanation behind the character he's based on, supported the theory well. Hope you're well, man. Thank you, man. That's a very kind message. Thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, I was hoping that people would enjoy the part of the video where I talked about the real life, like the influences from the movies and real life and all that stuff. That was one of my favorite parts to discuss. I also got to watch an entire movie for the sake of writing that script, so that was fun. It was fun to like sit down and watch a movie and be like, I'm doing this for work. Like I'm not just watching a movie for fun. I'm doing this to actually like learn something and actually make something here. So it was cool. It was a fun part of the video to research. I'm glad you liked it. Yo, what's up, Gio? Thank you for the $5, my man. I appreciate that a lot. He said, bro, the Akainu video was so good, man. You ate like crazy. 10 out of 10 banger. Thank you, my man. I appreciate it. That is great to hear. That is great to hear. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I know people have like sent you my theory videos before, but I didn't know if you ever managed to check out some of the newer ones. So that was like, this video was like, I haven't made a theory in like 4 months. Big return to form. I was trying to come back strong, and yeah, it's cool to hear that everyone likes it. So, but yeah, back to the theory here. I'm very confused about the whole Bonnie situation. That's what I'm trying to figure out, how it's possible that Bonnie hasn't aged beyond being a child in all these years since Kuma was king, right?
Even though she's actually 22. Another possibility that I thought of here is that since cloning and clones have been at the forefront of the arc, with characters like Stussy, Weevil, and the Seraphim, I'm wondering if Bonnie could actually turn out to be a clone of Queen Connie from Sorbet Kingdom.
Oh.
At one point, Bonnie does tell Luffy that she's been in Egghead before, back when
right.
she was a kid. So maybe she was created
This
there,
reminds me of the people saying that Bonnie was a Big Mom clone. That's wild. Imagine. Oh man, if Bonnie was a Big Mom clone, people would be so mad.
Either doesn't age or ages very slowly. Then again, she might just be a little girl, because we've seen her cry a lot. Plus, she also fainted because of some bugs. So those are kind of indicators that she might have the mentality of a little girl. Then again, Sugar fainted because of Usopp's wild face. I'm sure all will be starting getting revealed once Kuma gets to the island. And with that in mind, since we know that the pacifistas were based off of Kuma, and since we know that Oda has made it a point to repeat that it is possible for a clone.
Remember when all the clone theories were coming out? Remember when like every theory was a clone theory for like a period of like 2 months?
I wonder if
or like
there's anything that
a little bit less.
Kuma
But
could do to override.
man, that was a
Saturn's
crazy
command.
time. That
Also,
Stussy
Sentomaru
chapter
definitely deserves some
crazy
recognition here, because he just kept getting back up, proving how strong his guard actually is. So the L's he's taken for the team here definitely up my respect for him. Plus, any feat that we've gotten from Sentomaru defense-wise is also a feat that hypes up Kizaru's defense automatically. It's actually crazy how much light as an agent has been present throughout this entire arc. We got holograms, light-touching pressure gloves, Bonnie was using a lightsaber at one point, pacifistas that have lasers based off of Kizaru's Devil Fruit ability, and I think Vegapunk explaining exactly what he did to transfer that aspect of the fruit's power to the pacifistas could help us learn more about Logias. And I want to make a point about something that'll happen in the future that perfectly connects with the way the chapter ended. And to do that, I have to go back in time, right before the time skip happened. Specifically, I have to go back to Rayleigh. So as most of us know, Rayleigh is a character that actually appears all the way back in chapter 19 of the story. He's the guy who breaks up the fight between Shanks and Buggy as they're arguing over the temperatures of the poles. Now, even though Rayleigh making an appearance that early in the story is actually pretty cool, and even though Oda said in an SBS that he always knew that the character he was drawing back then
Lao G Garp clone theory is no joke the greatest theory of all time. Yeah, thanks for that, Marth. Appreciate that.
Crew, I'm pretty sure that Oda
Thank you for inserting that into the zeitgeist for us.
come up with Rayleigh's actual name until much later. More specifically, I'm pretty sure that Oda only settled on the name Rayleigh for Rayleigh at around chapter 500, which features his formal introduction into the story in Subodi Archipelago. See, the name of Rayleigh is actually a reference to a phenomenon that involves light known as Rayleigh scattering, which in real life plays a role in why it is that we perceive the sky as blue.
It's a little complicated to explain, but basically what happens is the following. The natural color of our sun is white. So if we were to look up at the sun without the atmosphere interfering or it acting as a lens, we would see the sun as white. Now, even though it doesn't seem like it, white light is actually made out of light of different colors.
Yes.
So if you take the white light
every color
from the sun and you break it apart, you split it up, you essentially get all the colors of the rainbow. That's why when you look at light through like a water droplet or a prism, you kind of see like a mini rainbow there. And so
that's also why Luffy being the Nika power with the white sun, like, you know, representing sunlight being colored white, and then every Straw Hat being another color of the rainbow is genius. It's Luffy is literally he's the fucking white light, and then the Straw Hats are like the different rainbow lights of the prism shooting out of Luffy, right? With the like it's a pretty cool. That's definitely intentional by Oda.
Is that the white light of the sun hits the atmosphere and interacts with the particles there. And through Rayleigh scattering, what Rayleigh scattering does is that it intercepts the blue light from the white light, it intercepts the blue, and then scatters it all over the place. Now, why is this relevant to One Piece? Well, I just showed you a clip of Rayleigh clashing with Kizaru, and so again, both of those characters are formally introduced to us at the same time in the story, in the same arc. And so I think it's very likely that even though Oda might have had the Silvers part of Rayleigh's name already figured out so that it matches with Goldie Rogers' name, right? I kind of suspect that he only decided on the Rayleigh part of Rayleigh's name while he was planning Subodi Archipelago, and he knew he would introduce Kizaru, who is an admiral with light powers, in the same arc. And
I will contest that. I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming he knows this, and he's just choosing not to. You know, use that as the reason because it's not really relevant to this idea. I understand, but Rayleigh's name is also just a reference to Sir Walter Raleigh, who is a real explorer, who basically, as if I'm not mistaken, he's the real life Mont Blanc Noland. Like he went to the New World. Like so not Noland. Sir Walter Raleigh went to the New World and he discovered, or I think he was it him? Did he claim to discover a city of gold, and then he came back and like published a book about it, and like no one believed him, and then at some point in his life he ended up getting executed in the same way. Like he got executed, not because they took him and there was no city of gold or whatever, but because some other thing, some altercation between some armies or something. But he messed up in some big way, and then they had him executed just like Noland. So it's like the same story beats. Sir Walter Raleigh goes, he claims to discover a city of gold, comes back, gets executed, and then no one believes him. So I mean, considering that exact sequence of events was like taken and put into One Piece, I feel like Oda already knew about Sir Walter Raleigh, like going into the Skypiea arc, right? Because if you're referencing that all the way back in Skypiea, you're referencing a real life thing with this namesake all the way far, like way before Sabaody. So in my mind, I feel like it's more likely that he's referencing Sir Walter Raleigh there. And let me just double check to make sure I'm not misinforming you guys. Yeah, this is the guy. In 1594, Raleigh heard of a city of gold in South America and sailed to find it, publishing an exaggerated account of his experiences in a book that contributed to the legend of El Dorado. After Queen Elizabeth died in 1603, Raleigh was again imprisoned in a tower, this time for being involved in the main plot against King James I. He was sent on an expedition. During the expedition, his men ransacked a Spanish outpost in violation of a peace treaty, and then he returned to England, and in order to appease the Spanish, he was executed. So it's like this guy's story is Nolan's inspiration. It's the inspiration behind Mont Blanc Nolan, like guaranteed. Um, so Rayleigh was a name definitely on Oda's mind way before Sabaody, 100%.
And I think most of you have noticed how
At
Egghead
least
seems to have
I'm
a lot
convinced of that.
echoes to Sabaody Archipelago. And Oda has already made it clear here that he's working his way towards this shocking climax that will have worldwide repercussions. And so in rereading some of the material, I actually noticed two main factors.
Road to El Dorado
that I'm
is a
pretty
great
sure
movie,
are gonna
Anton.
play a very important role in the climax of the
Big
arc.
part of my childhood.
No, it's not the light pressure gloves. There's something else at play. I mean, I'm pretty sure the gloves will play a role pretty soon. But more specifically, the factors that jumped out at me actually have to do with two of the Straw Hats.
On a somewhat related note, some fans are currently speculating that Katarina Devon has already infiltrated the Straw Hats, and what started this conversation in the first place was that we got an abrupt change between panels of Sanji holding onto the Vega tank, and then we cut away and Frankie's holding onto the tank in the exact same place and manner as Sanji was doing previously. So it kind of made it seem as if Sanji had morphed into Frankie.
Now, upon further inspection of the chapter,
That'd be crazy.
we do get to see that in the panel where Sanji is grabbing onto the tank,
That's good, Kev.
there are two empty seats, one on each side of Vegapunk. And so after that, after it cuts to the panel
Damn.
with Frankie, we do see
If
that there's a
Katarina
little
is
silhouette
in the Straw
sitting
Hats right
next to
now,
Vegapunk
disguised,
in one of those seats.
that would
And so
be a
that makes it clear
wild
that
twist.
Sanji was able to get into the tank and sit right next to Vegapunk. And then Frankie jumped onto the tank, coincidentally holding on in the same location that Sanji had just left. That being said, because of Katarina Devon getting brought up here, because of this, here are some facts about her.
So according to the One Piece wiki, Katarina Devon's first name could actually be a reference to a female conquistador named Catalina de Erauso, who was actually well known for assuming male identities and dressing up as men while traveling the world. And that reminds me of how Devon pretended to be Absalom. In addition, according to her Vivri card, and this is actually pretty dark stuff, but according to her Vivri card, Katarina Devon's hobby is collecting the heads of beautiful women. Now I think it's pretty obvious that the Blackbeard pirates currently have no idea that Bonnie is really a little girl, because otherwise if they do, that just adds a whole new layer of creepiness and darkness to the scene where Blackbeard actually asks Bonnie to be his girlfriend. And then if it turns out that Katarina Devon was actually posing as Sanji in this chapter, then her wanting to get closer to Bonnie makes sense, not just because of her murderous hobby, but also because Bonnie has a pretty rare devil fruit, which we know Blackbeard is in the business of collecting. During the week, I also noticed a lot of people arguing back and forth about
Oh
whether or
shit,
not
Kev, you hit 4K. That's awesome. Congratulations, bro. Very, very nice. That's great to hear.
was using ACOC
Big W.
or KOH to fend Lucci off. So with that in mind, I just want to say the following. We know that Oda has been very inconsistent in the way that he handles hockey. And it's gotten to a point where a part of me is kind of already numbed out, especially when it pertains to discussing the armament hockey coding lightning versus the Conqueror's hockey coding lightning. But something that I stand by to this day is that Oda has made it very clear that Enma is a sword that is constantly trying to absorb as much hockey as possible from its user. And it's not like the sword is differentiating between armament or conquerors, it's just sucking out hockey. And I honestly think that that side effect from the sword is not going to stop until Zoro turns it into a black blade. And the reason for why I'm bringing this up is because if you look at that panel with Zoro and the swords, the only sword that shows the black hockey stripe, in addition to the green flames, is Enma.
Awakened Lucci's dialogue in the scene is also pretty interesting as well, because not only is he recognizing Zoro as the number 2 of the crew, but he's also rectifying his previous statement about not recognizing Luffy as a Yonko. And I also noticed that the new command that Atlas gave the Pacifistas is to wipe out the Marines. And so that's interesting because Saturn is technically not a Marine. Now going back to what I said about the seeds that Oda has already planted in the arc, that
Neither are
a huge role in
CP0.
defining how this crisis and how this incident ends. I mean, there's a bunch of them, but off the top of my head, half-dead Kuma arriving at Egghead to save Bonnie is one. The Light Gloves, the Blackbeard Pirates, Katarina Devon can shapeshift. Lafitte can hypnotize people. We have the whole thing about Caribou getting upset in the beginning of the arc still in play because Zoro kicked him out of the ship. But in regards to the two factors that pertain to the main theme of this video, I think it's important to think about how we sort of entered Egghead. How the fandom expectation, or at least, I know some fans were sort of thinking like, oh, this is, Vegapunk's island, technology. This is going to be Frankie's arc, right? Or Frankie's going to have a lot to do here. Like, he could be like one of the main players here. And unfortunately, that hasn't really happened. In fact, one of the main points of comparison that people make between the pre-time skip and the post-time skip is that pre-time skip was a lot more focused on the Straw Hats. That was the main family unit back then, and Oda allowed a lot of time for that main family unit to breathe and gave the Straw Hats a significant amount of focus. Post-time skip, that focus has shifted.
I would say it's not exactly a chapter review, Anton. This is definitely using the I mean, it's a chapter review, I guess, in the sense where the main subject of discussion is the chapter. But I think most of the video is focused on exactly what's going to cause the Egghead incident, number one. And number two, the idea that, the characters that are currently with us right now might not be what they seem. Like, for example, the Katarina Devon thing, how there could be some more stuff happening in the works right now that's going to set up a bigger incident. So I do respect this as a theory, because I think... he's putting a lot more analysis and thought into the future of what's going to play off this chapter. He's not just reviewing what happened, and I think that's an important distinction.
Somewhat, because there are tons of side characters. Well, the world got bigger, so there's more side characters, more side quests. And so with that in mind, if you're a Straw Hat and your name is not Luffy,
Yo, what's up, Joy Boy?
Sanji or Zoro, you end up having to share.
How you doing, bro? He said this is a cool idea. The Sawyer's Theory. I like this video. I like this whole video so far. It's almost done already. Damn. I didn't even consider the possibility that Katarina could already be infiltrating the Straw Hats. I want to know. I wish he showed a little bit more clearly the. I might have to revisit that part, but the part where like Sanji's getting switched out with Frankie. Really curious about that.
Other side characters. So that's kind of what happened here with Frankie. But that being said, I think Oda does still make an effort to give some of the rest of the Straw Hats some pretty cool moments. And so I really think that that's what Oda's trying to do here with Frankie. He's setting him up to have a really special moment and to be redeemed, really. Because, well, first of all, we don't know why Frankie's bounty poster is a picture of the Sunny. That's something weird that I think needs to be explained further. Another thing, too, is that he needs to
I think that's part of just the gag. The running gag is that they keep, instead of actually using a picture of Frankie, they keep using pictures of his inventions as his bounty poster. Like, they don't know. They see Cyborg Frankie, so I guess their assumption is that Frankie is like a giant machine or something. So they keep taking pictures of the fucking machines that Frankie makes, not actually Frankie. I think that's just a running gag. It might just be like, I think it's like Frankie's version of, let's say, Chopper getting like the really tiny bounties, or Sanji getting a really dumb picture for his bounties. I think it's just an extension of that Frankie always gets every time he gets a new bounty poster, it's not actually a picture of him, it's a picture of one of his inventions.
Because last chapter, not only did he fail to shoot Kizaru with his laser, but he also failed to protect Bonnie. So there's definitely this impending sense of Frankie has to do something big pretty soon. Now, several chapters
I hope, man. Green blood.
Green
blood.
Where Nami
make it happen.
Actually came across
please.
So she found these artificial diamonds and loaded up a bag with them. But because they were in a hurry searching for Vegapunk, she decided to leave the diamonds behind. Now, as she's walking away, in that scene, she actually says, "We better come back here to get them before we leave." Now, the reason why that's important is because diamonds have the ability to refract light, which is another way of saying they have the power to bend light. Now, by the end of the chapter, we actually see Luffy get hit by Kizaru's laser, and he just shoots the light out in different directions.
Yo, if that's true, if it ends up being diamonds that take out Kizaru, I'm just saying, they should have had my man Jozu on the front lines at Marineford. If you're telling me that all it takes is a diamond to refract Kizaru's ass all over Egghead, just... Marineford should have just been Jozu at the front. Anytime Kizaru pulls up, just have Jozu do this right in front. Just flex, turn into diamonds. It would have been so free, bro. Imagine.
Oh my gosh, like this is so hot. Like I'm burning.
Oda, it's funny. Let's do it.
Rubber,
yeah, that's.
The diamonds are different.
I think so, man. I think sometimes his thought process is just like, oh, this is funny. Like that's how he does shit.
Actually
you know.
Artificial diamonds there at Egghead. But as it turns out, diamonds can also be used to create a super laser. There was actually a study done several years ago where some scientists took a diamond and aimed 4 small lasers at it, okay, at one side. And what they found is that the diamond actually combined the power of all 4 lasers into one much more powerful super laser, and it shot it out the other end. So whether those diamonds that Nami found end up getting used against Kizaru, or the pacifistas and Frankie get together and aim their lasers together at a big enough diamond to create a super laser. Actually, I just remembered that Bonnie can actually create jewels.
I'm glad
as
to hear
well.
that, Gio. That's cool, man.
Oda is a huge Star Wars fan. So to me, it's pretty likely now that something big is going to end up blowing up.
Hey, that's good
So
for
just-
me too, because if other people have been coming to the same conclusions, then I think that's supporting that there's definitely some sort of overarching theme, you know, behind Akainu's character. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just responding to what Gio's saying in the chat. Yeah, he's saying that he thought about like with the Akainu theory, a lot of those ideas came to him. Same, you know, those same conclusions. That's great to hear, because then that tells me that I'm not just pulling it out of my ass. That yeah, like these are things that you can reach that natural conclusion just by reading the story. So yeah, I think that's sick.
Just a matter of when and how catastrophic the explosion is going to end up being. With that said, I hope I provided some food for thought.
That was cool. Thank you, Sawyer. I always love to hear this guy talk about One Piece. The way he explains stuff is great. I like his candor. Yeah, this is a cool video. I think there's a lot of there's a bunch of interesting ideas in here. All right, so let me just recap the major ideas. Number 1, wild one, out of left field. Saturn possibly dies before the end of this arc. That would be some insane news to slap on a headline. The thing is, though, given that, I mean, we haven't even seen what his power is. Like, we've seen the man transform. We don't even know what it looks like. So I feel like we need a little bit more time before we kill the guy off. But hey, I mean, I'm down for twists. You know, I'm always up for a George R.R. Martin style, you know, last minute bait and switch, and you have Saturn get thrown into the ocean or something. I don't know, but yeah, no, that's a really cool, crazy, out of left field idea. And that being what like sparks the Egghead incident or whatever, or at least gives it that name. That's also a cool idea. Next up was the idea that Katarina Devon might be disguising as one of the Straw Hats currently on Egghead, and the evidence that was given was, you know, basically, it seems like there are certain characters that in one scene it's Frankie holding on to an object, and then in another scene it's Sanji, and it's like there's no explanation for why they keep switching, aside from the fact that it could be someone transforming their appearance. That was also very cool. And then the end of the video was the diamonds. The diamonds is another one that I was not expecting. Nami picking up a bag of diamonds and saying that we got to come back to this later. And yeah, I mean, it's possible they might come back to that, and then it could be that Frankie you know, uses the diamonds. He could use the diamonds to power up his nipple beam. Although I'm gonna say this is the same logic that Saturn gave to Kizaru. It's like, look, if it's made of light, it's not gonna hurt you. I don't think Kizaru can be hurt by a mega laser, no matter what. The defense grid outside of Egghead is already insanely powerful, and Kizaru slipped through that no problem. Once again, because he's made of light. So I don't know exactly how that would work in terms of like defeating him or helping the fight against him. Maybe if the diamonds were used on Kizaru's attacks to maybe, I don't know. I don't really know. But it's a cool concept. It's like a cool, interesting idea. But yeah, I like this video. Let me tally this up on the board here, the theory board. All right. I'm trying to figure out which marker is like not impossible to see. Hold on, let's see. Theory review. All right, Sawyer's theory. Sawyer's theory, Egghead, incident. I'm gonna tally this one up on the charts here, and if if any ideas come to mind, I'll jot them down. But we're gonna continue on to the next theory. We're gonna keep track of everything here. You guys can't fucking see it because the chat's in the way. Well, shit. All right. This whole whiteboard idea needs some fine tuning. Okay. Can't see anything behind the massive. Okay. Well, whatever. Screw it. All right, next up, we got a video from Artur, the Library of O'Hara. This is another like kind of chapter response theory video, but I had an idea related to this specifically, so I just want to see what Artur has to say about it. Title of this video is "This is how Kizaru's Logia awakening might work," and I had an idea. I'm gonna just put the idea out there before I start the video, but basically. The idea that I had was that if Kizaru uses his light powers on Luffy, is it possible that the way that Luffy defeats Kizaru here is that, you know, he's the sun god, right? So could it be that the sun god, you know, sunlight, like there's some sort of like power that Luffy might have that he hasn't fully tapped into yet, that Luffy can actually use to defeat Kizaru's light powers, considering that he's the sun god. The sun is the source of light. So, you know, it would be like the magma to the fire fruit almost, like, or like the, you know, like the whole idea of upgrading a fruit. I know that the light fruit is nothing like the Nika fruit, but I'm just saying, like, the ability of the sun is definitely a parent ability to the ability to just turn into light. So, like, the way I see it is like, it could be that Kizaru awakens his devil fruit at Egghead. And this would be great because this would be the first time we see what a Logia awakening looks like. We haven't seen what a Logia awakening looks like. Kizaru would be the perfect person to show us that the first time. And maybe what would happen is that Kizaru doesn't realize this, but by doing that, by awakening his devil fruit, he accidentally like activates some part of Luffy's power, like sun god powers, that like straight up counter the light awakening. Like I could see that being like a crazy twist where like he doesn't realize it, but Luffy's fruit is a direct counter to light powers in that respect. But that'll just kind of be a repeat of NL, so you know, it might not be the best twist ever, but it's just something that came to mind as like, well, he's the sun god. You know, if you awaken your light fruit and you just become light, maybe there's a way that he can control that, or like he was able to grab lightning. If Luffy can grab lightning, why can't he grab light? You know, what's the difference really? It's all energy anyway. It's all just different types of energy. In light's case, I mean, obviously there's a difference. I'm not the most scientific guy out there, but as far as I know, light is radiation, while electricity is like I'm pretty sure that's more. That's not a type of radiation, right? That's more of like a charge. That's related to charge and the charge between particles. So it's like, obviously it's not the same exact thing, but it's still a cool concept. So with that out of the way, I want to hear what Artur has to say. What's the awakening for Kizaru's Logia here? What does he think it's going to be? Let's check it out.
At Kizaru's abilities, including what you may not have realized may actually be Kizaru's awakening as a Logia Delphoid user. As supported by other high-tier Logia users have been able to use this exact same ability, the final step in the powers of a Logia, where they can allow their very element to come to life as creatures of its own. So join me as we break down the inner workings of how Kizaru's light powers work and the awakening of Logia fruits. Before we begin though, I just want to let you know that we've decided to extend the sale of my Library of O'Hara Globe plushie for 1 extra week. The sale was meant to end today, but given how well it's been selling,
one of these up, by the way.
Period has been extended for 1 extra week, so you still have time to get your order in. But act fast because it's only 1 more week, and after this period, the globe will legitimately be gone forever, this time for good. So if you don't want to regret not having gotten it, be sure to order it right now. Order your very own Library of O'Hara Globe at the link in the description below. So starting off, Luffy...
Yo, thank you so much, Bit. Thank you for the $10. They said, I love the passion and the work. Thank you. It's going to keep coming. Honestly, I got to say, this new video doing as well as it has given me like a big boost in motivation in terms of like script ideas. I've gotten so many ideas over like the last 48 hours for things I want to write about. One interesting thing I think has come up. I made like an offhand joke in that video about how I really don't like Yamato, and I talked about it on the stream plenty about why I don't like Yamato. Poorly written character, ruined Onigashima in a lot of ways, took away from a lot of other characters' impact. I've talked about this before, but you know, I didn't realize that many people were like so shocked at the idea of not liking this character. So I kind of want to make an entire video critiquing the Wano arc, because I have a lot of things to say about Wano. And now that it's behind us, the anime's done with the Wano arc, the manga's been done with the Wano arc, it might be a good time to talk about it as a complete picture. So one video that I want to make that's inspired me since putting out the Akainu video, I want to do a full Wano critique where I just go over every element of that arc that's good, and obviously why it's hampered by a lot of other elements. I think Yamato is a huge part of why the second half of Wano, I think, falls a little bit flat compared to something like Marineford or Water 7, where those arcs just felt so much more, I don't know, hype and excuse me, hype and impactful building up to that final. Wow, Jesus, I have to take a drink. It's hard to talk. Yeah, they were way more hype and impactful leading up to the final fight with Luffy and Lucci, or, you know, whatever. It's always like a build up to the end, and I understand that Oda's like a slow burn writer, but sometimes that build-up is more enjoyable than others, and I didn't feel like the Wano build-up was enjoyable. I don't think the first two acts really do the third act any major service in a lot of areas. I don't think that the early Onigashima was very entertaining. I felt like there was a lot of wasted panel time on characters that didn't need it. Meanwhile, characters like the Scabbards that needed more focus didn't get it. So, you know, there's a lot of things I can talk about. Obviously, Yamato is going to be a part of that, but it's not just Yamato. I think in general, the writing of Wano, it just felt rushed, and it felt like a lot of ideas that never got to come to their full fruition. Like, Oda had so many things he wanted to cram in there and fit into the arc and make work, and by the end of it, it felt like his editors were pushing him to like wrap it up, and then he never got to finish any of it. Yeah, so because of that, you know, there's a lot of parts and elements and characters that felt unfinished, and I think the biggest one for me was Yamato, and the fact that Yamato took up so much panel time in Onigashima, despite not even being a part of the first two acts, is something that infuriates me in retrospect, because there's so many characters that needed that focus and didn't get it, and instead that focus went to a character that is basically dollar store Jinbei. If we really think about it, it's dollar store Jinbei. I don't mean to go on this rant here, but just for those that don't understand what I mean by this, just think about it, okay? Luffy meets a person who is originally part of the enemy faction. In Jinbei's case, it's the warlords and the world government, and in Yamato's case, it's the beast pirates. He meets this person who's supposed to be an enemy at first, and he finds them imprisoned, and then Luffy decides to free them, and then because Luffy frees them from their prison, who they're both imprisoned by their respective sides, their own bosses they're imprisoned by, because Luffy decides to free them, they decide to help Luffy. Oh, and guess what? They also both have a direct connection to Luffy's brother, Ace. And they both made a promise to Ace, and because of this promise, they want to help Luffy. Okay, so they go and help Luffy. And then they're both thrust immediately into a war arc where both these characters spend the entire arc babysitting a character who doesn't belong on the battlefield. In Marineford, Jinbei had to babysit Luffy the whole time. In Wano, Yamato had to babysit Momo the whole time. Both of them want to become Straw Hats, and both of them end the arc not actually joining yet. Everything that Yamato did, Jinbei did, but better. Jinbei did it without hammering in the, oh, I'm going to be a Straw Hat. He didn't do the Straw Hat baiting that Yamato did every chapter. He didn't, like, do this, like, obnoxious hero complex thing that Yamato did trying to be like Odin. It just felt like Jinbei was doing it out of the good of his heart and, like, out of an honor-bound thing that he had with Ace. Whereas Yamato every chapter tried to shove into your face, I'm going to be a Straw Hat. I'm Kozuki Odin. This is why I'm here to help you. And it's like, man, it's like, yo, just chill out. Like, Jinbei was just way better, man. Jinbei was just it's the same character, but way, way better. So, anyway, rant over. I'll get to that in the video. I want to do the full Wano critique, but there are just so many things about that arc that, I mean, I love Gear 5. I love the fights. I love how it, like, wraps up. But, man, everything else, like, that's, like, what is it? Like, 100, like, 90 chapters of buildup, and it's not even that great a build. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, I'm gonna start creating more haters if I continue down this road. So, let me get back to Arthur's video here.
He manages to toss Kizaru into the ocean, but Kizaru simply flies over it. Since he's light, which can float in midair as long as it is shined, Kizaru can very much essentially just fly wherever he wants. Kizaru then fights back using an attack called Yasakani no Magatama. This is one of Kizaru's...
Also, I'm sorry. Okay, Maya, thank you for the 10. I appreciate that. They said, please do the Wano critique. It's so needed. People like Yamato now because of the anime. The voice actress is great. Also, the ED trolls people to think Yamato will join. That's what I hate about it. I hate the baiting. I hate that they keep baiting Yamato as a crewmate and then not. And we know as manga readers, we know they're not going to deliver on that. Yamato's not joining. So it's just like, especially now, if I'm watching the anime again and watching that setup, it just feels so pointless because I'm like, she's not going to join. Like, it's not going to happen. So, you know.
Classic set of attacks
like,
which have a specific history
spend time on
behind them. This trinity of attacks involves the aforementioned Yasakani no Magatama, an attack where Kizaru shoots a torrent of flashes of light.
Yeah, I agree with
Yata no Kagami, a move where Kizaru moves really fast by shining a mirror of light to create a road for him to move through, and Ama no Murakumo, where Kizaru creates a sword made of light. These three attacks are all named after the three imperial regalia, the national treasures of Japan. According to myth, these treasures were crafted by deities and eventually passed down the imperial line of Japan, where they still reside enshrined within the possession of the current emperor line. The treasures are forbidden from public view because of how sacred they are, and only the emperor and a select group of people are allowed to lay eyes on them, which has given these national treasures an aura of mysticism. Each of these treasures embody the three forces of values in Shinto belief, being benevolence, wisdom, and courage.
I agree, Joy Boy,
and have become iconic in Japanese culture.
If you're gonna bait, at
the
least
first
have
of
it
these
pay
three
off
items is the
in like a
Yasakani no
meaningful
Magatama.
way.
The
Not
term
like
translates
the
to
goodbye that
literally
we got at the end
eight-span
of the-
jade
at the end of the
Magatama,
arc.
with a Magatama being a traditional stone from ancient Japanese culture with a lot of ties to its mythology
Yeah,
and
I
mystic.
do agree there.
The Yasakani no Magatama in specific is a sacred stone set to ward off evil that is used alongside the other treasures to bless the coronation of the Japanese emperor. The reference here could be due to the fact that Magatama literally means rounded sphere, and with his attack, Kizaru creates several small spheres of light, which act like sacred jewels that smite his opponents. The second item, the Yata no Kagami, is a sacred bronze mirror that represents wisdom, literally translating to 8-span mirror due to its length. In this case, the reference is evident as Kizaru uses this mirror to shine a light to teleport around. Finally, the third item is the Ama no Murakumo, also now more commonly known as the Kusanagi no Tsurugi. The Ama no Murakumo is a sacred sword whose history runs deep into Japanese mythology, which generally translates to the clouds that gather in the heavens. Interestingly, the sword was said to have been originally found within the body of the Yamata no Orochi, the legendary 8-headed creature that inspired, of course, the powers of Shogun Orochi within One Piece. In this case, Kizaru embodies this sacred blade in the form of a sword made of light.
Okay.
The connection with
So
Kizaru
what's
to
the
these
awakening
treasures
then?
is
Is it
interesting,
based on the
as
three
there
treasures?
isn't as much apparent connection to them at first, aside from the association of the divine with light, but perhaps it could serve to symbolize Kizaru's position as a
I'm sorry, I started a fire in the chat about Wano and Yamato. I don't mean I do want to give Arthur the attention, but I do think this is something to talk about. This is why I want to make the video, guys. This is really why, because I feel like we've kind of just moved on from Wano. Like, the fatigue of how long that arc was, how long we were in that arc. You know, we kind of just wanted to, like, move on. And then once the arc was over, we were like, yes, finally, something else. So we get to Egghead, and now we're all so attentive on what's going on in Egghead and where the story's going to go that, you know, I feel like we haven't stopped for a second to turn around and look behind us and be like, okay, now that we're out of that arc, how do we feel about it? And look, I'll be the first one to say, Gear 5, the end of Wano. I mean, like, the way that arc really came to its, like, climax is one of the best parts of the entire series. Easily. Gear 5 is my favorite power-up in any anime, manga, whatever. Anything. It's, like, my favorite power-up. It's so cool. The fight was awesome. But to get there, there's so much nonsense. So yeah, whatever. Anyway, I want to talk about that in a video. I want to dedicate a whole video to that. Gangi said, I hope I don't think I pronounced that right at all. Gangi. Thank you for the $2 Canadian, my friend. He said, "What's good, man? Dropping in to say hi." As I said, I do remember we had that exchange. We had a little bit of back and forth in the comments, but it ended with a nice bro hug. So I appreciate you being here, my friend. Thank you. Thank you thank you for stopping by. Dila Joyboy, thank you for the $10. He said, although the bait was there, it was better for her not to join. The build-up for her to join felt hollow and cheap, so it's better for her character to stay. I do like Yamato for that. I agree, and I wanted Yamato not to join the crew. I just don't like how much Yamato tries to force wanting to join the crew. I just wish that was not even like a twist that had to happen. I don't really know how to explain it. I just felt like it was, even from the beginning, like, I made a video saying Yamato wasn't going to join the crew only like halfway into Onigashima. Like, from the beginning, ever since this character was introduced, I was pretty convinced immediately she's not joining. Or he or they, whatever pronouns you prefer. I have a whole other argument about that specifically with the Yamato pronouns thing. I think that they completely overshadowed an actual, like, proper trans character in the form of Okiku, and Kiku was completely overshadowed by Yamato, but that's a whole other, I'll leave that for the video too. Point is, because people love to correct me on that in the comments, the point is, Yamato, okay, from the beginning, I was pretty much dead set on the idea. I'm like, this character's not joining. Like, it's such an obvious red herring. It's so clear that, like, it's supposed to bait the viewer into, like, getting excited over this character, and then Oda's gonna pull the rug out, like, last minute. So I don't know. Like, it just feels to me like that character was not actually well thought out and designed, and was not written in a way that was supposed to actually set up the arc that happens at the end, because there's not really an arc that happens right at the end of the arc. Yamato just does a 180. Like, there's one chapter where Yamato is like, I'm gonna join the Straw Hats, and then the very, very next chapter, like, straight up, like a page later, Yamato does a 180 on her decision. Like, I don't, like, that's not an arc. There's no development that happens there. It's just like a last minute rug pull that is meant to, like, shock the reader, and it's not actually, like, set up. So, you know, I just think that character is, like, totally misunderstood and not misunderstood, poorly written. I just think they're not really written well. And if anyone's wondering what I meant by the whole pronoun thing, I'll clarify with this. I'll just say this. I thought the whole point of, like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not part of the community, so I can't say myself. I'm not speaking from a place of experience. But I thought the whole point with, like, trans self-acceptance was being comfortable with who you are on the inside, right? So then tell me, why is Yamato's entire character based around copying another human being? Like, you can feel like a different gender on the inside. That's one thing. But to feel like you are another human being on the inside doesn't make sense. Like, I can't come to you and say, I'm Napoleon Bonaparte. You know, like, that doesn't work. Like, that's not how that works. And the way that Yamato idolizes Odin, it has nothing to do with, like, Yamato's gender. It's purely just wanting to LARP as this one guy. If Odin was a woman, Yamato would want to be a woman. If Odin was a fish, Yamato would want to be a fish. It has nothing to do with the gender. It has everything to do with just LARPing as Odin. And it's, like, such a misguided... It's, like, the same logic as, like... Yamato walks up to you and identifies as Odin would be the same as Yamato walking up to you and identifying as an attack helicopter. It's actually like the opposite of like the whole trans messaging that exists with Kiku, who's actually properly written, who has an actual internal like thing going on. Like there's actual depth to Kiku and Kiku's decision to, you know, identify as a woman. And that's a character that I will gender I say Kiku's a she. I always do. I don't say it for Yamato because Yamato is a LARPer. Yamato is not even... Yamato doesn't say anything about being a male. Yamato just wants to be Odin. It's specifically Odin. And it's the most bizarre writing because I don't think that's even possible. You can't be another proper noun. I can't claim to be... you know, whatever... Think of any celebrity or famous person. There's only one of every person. So it's just like such a pointless character arc. And it feels like... I don't know. Anyway... It's like, that's the thing. To me, it just feels like Yamato's entire reason for wanting to be Odin has nothing to do with their internal, like, how they feel about who they truly are. It actually is the opposite. It's Yamato running away from their identity as Kaido's child. And I think that's the arc that should have been focused on. And while it was for a little portion, the fact that that never really got resolved by the end of the arc, and we still have Yamato, even now, we still have Yamato identifying as Odin, tells me that Yamato learned nothing over the course of Wano. Yamato did not learn anything by the end of the arc. So, you know, that's, to me... That's poorly handled. That's a character that did not deliver on the message or the arc that was supposed to happen. And Oda has done it properly with Kiku, but the problem is with Kiku is that Kiku got overshadowed by Yamato because instead of focusing on the scabbards during Onigashima, which was the whole point of the arc, instead of focusing on the scabbards, Oda decided to give half the focus to this character that he just made up a week ago. It's so frustrating to read. I really don't like that character at all. Yeah, Gio, I agree. I don't think he intended that. I mean, look, like, so Gio says, I genuinely don't think Oda didn't intentionally go for the trans direction with Yamato, but I got so far from a community perspective, he just said, fuck it. I don't know if that's the case. I do think that he had maybe the intention, and then he, like, changed it, because, like, the way I see it is... The way he designed Yamato, when Yamato first appeared in the manga, right? And Yamato had like the more androgynous look, like Yamato's chest was like kind of flat and they had the mask and the long blue hair. That was like a twist because Yamato took off the mask and it's an effeminate face, right? That's the twist. I could have seen Oda going for that there. But then he chooses to change up the design. Like, Yamato goes from androgynous and, like, you're not able to exactly tell. And then in the next chapter, Yamato gets these triple F side boob displaying honkers in this, it's a clearly designed to sell figures. And it's, like, not the... It's, like, designed... Like, it's very clearly over-sexualized for the purpose of selling figures and merchandise with Yamato. And I also suspect part of the reason for all the I'm gonna be a Straw Hat shoehorning that they did in the arc was just to sell merch. Because the amount of times I saw merch come out with, like, Yamato, like... lined up with the other Straw Hats, and I was in Japan at the time of the Wano arc, and I remember there was a bunch of Yamato merch, and it just felt to me like Yamato's design was changed from something that was actually believably androgynous to this, like, Coomer fan service that's clearly designed to sell merchandise and is not actually serving the message of the character. So, once again, I'm sorry to go off on like this long rant. I know that some of it's politically charged. I know that some people may not have liked what they heard, but these are my honest opinions. I do think that character was handled horribly. I think there are other characters in the very same arc, one in particular, that tries to get that same message across and does it way better than Yamato. And Yamato is just like a discount version of all these characters, except for whatever reason, they got all the attention and screen time. And yeah, anyway. That's the end of the Yamato rant. I will save the rest for the full Wano critique, and I plan to make that probably within the next couple uploads. I think that's going to go up soon because we're already in the anime is just finishing Wano now, so I actually want to catch the anime viewers coming off of that arc with this video. So hopefully that'll be up within the next month or something. Anyway, this is still a theory review. Let's rewind a little bit and pick up from where we left off with Arthur's video here.
Apparent connection to them at first, aside from the association of the divine with light, but perhaps it could serve to symbolize Kizaru's position as a divine being who enacts the will of the gods. Putting aside the treasures, however, something really interesting happens within this chapter as Kizaru unleashes a regular Yasakani no Magatam attack, but then suddenly each of the particles of light becomes a completely individual clone of Kizaru, with each of them even being able to wield their very own Ama no Murakuma swords. Luffy is obviously confused by this as he tries to hit them, but even despite using arm and haki, these clones simply
sipping on Canada Dry
light
ginger
without
ale
suffering any
right
damage. Luffy compares them to the Hollows he found
pretty
earlier
good.
on the island,
I like ginger
which
ale.
of course refers to Vegapunk's holograms that were introduced at the start of the arc. No doubt at this point some sort of Chekhov's gun to help
My wife
introduce
likes
the
ginger ale.
concept
I
of
got it for
Kizaru's
her,
fight. But in that case,
I got nothing
Luffy
else in the
referred to the
fridge.
holograms
So.
as Hollows, as he does here, in reference to Perona's ghosts, the powers of the Horohoronomi, the Hollow fruit, which Luffy was also unable to catch back in Thriller Bark, so he's comparing them to the holograms here. We are introduced to the concept of how Atlas was able to punch the holograms with gloves that can hit light, so maybe those could help assist Luffy within this fight. However, that still doesn't explain just how was Kizaru able to form so many clones. At their core, these likely function.
Thank you so much, Joy Boy, for the $10. He said it's really easy to lose yourself doing YouTube. I appreciate that you try to stay true. It means a lot to me. Thank you, man. That means a lot to me too. That's why I hold that to such a high importance. Excuse me. I just think it's important to be real about these things. Talk about the story, because when you're looking at the story, especially from a writing perspective, you have to analyze, was the intention behind writing this character? Did they succeed? Did Oda succeed in conveying the message he wanted to when he set out to write the character? If he didn't, then we got to talk about that, because it's there's we as content creators for One Piece, we have made collectively thousands of videos that talk up how great the story is, and I think that because of that, our community has gotten this bad rap of basically just eating up whatever Oda throws at us, even if it's not great, and it's we'll defend anything, right? And I feel like One Piece fans have that bad rap of we'll just defend anything that Oda writes, and I want to kind of make it clear with stuff like this. It's no, we recognize where the issues are. We just love the good stuff way too much to spend more time focusing on it. But I think it's important to talk about these things, especially if it's true that Oda does occasionally watch theories on YouTube or whatever, videos. Maybe he'll hear one of these critiques out one day. It might help him write the story going forward. I don't know. That's a far cry from what I'm even talking about right now. But the point is, it's important to be real about this stuff.
Function on a similar basis
And
as
also,
Vegapunk's hologram.
let me just say, before we continue, also, Joy Boy, I do like the way that you've always talked about these things too in the streams that we've been on together, reveries. I feel like you keep it real yourself, so I appreciate that as well. The feeling's mutual.
But even so, it shouldn't be possible for Kizaru to so easily control so many clones at once, especially with his real body being
Joy Boy with the
elsewhere.
yellow
And
donut
despite
box
the
is
fact
too
that
perfect.
Luffy can't
Yeah.
hurt the clones, the clones are able to hurt Luffy directly. So how does this exactly work? Well, there have been many theories across the years about how Logia awakenings work. Whereas Paramecia users are able to affect their environments and surroundings, and Zoan users attain transformations, we still don't have an official confirmation on how Logia awakenings work. Some believe that perhaps they change the weather and environment around them, with a common example being what happened at Pang Hazard, maybe Aokiji and Akainu both awakening and causing a change in the weather, but personally I disagree with that belief since I feel it's too similar to Paramecia awakenings, and we've seen just how much different types of awakenings differ one from another. Rather, there's another theory I've had for a long time regarding Logia awakenings that perfectly explains how Kizaru would have been able to execute this attack. I'm of the belief that Logia awakenings allow the user to make their element come to life on its own, to turn their element into living creatures that can
Yep.
move, talk, and act on their own based on the will of the original user. And the perfect example of this is Karasu, who has the Susususunomi, the seemingly Logia Suit fruit that lets Karasu transform into the element of Suit. Karasu can shift freely into Suit in that form, but the Suit he transforms into also manages to take the form of actual living crows. These
Yeah,
crows
I
are
like this
very much
idea.
alive.
I've
being
heard
able
this
to
before,
move,
I think,
make
but,
noise,
it's a
and
very
even
cool-
talk with Karasu's voice. However, they don't have eyes or any distinguishing features because they are all pitch black, as they are all literally just made of Suit. We've seen similar cases with other characters as well, particularly the admirals. Aokiji was able to create a giant pheasant out of ice in his ice block pheasant bake attack, and Akainu was able to create a giant magma dog in his Inugami Guren attack, literally meaning biting dog, both which behaved on their own. So it makes sense that Kizaru as well would be able to use this ability. Enel also similarly created a few creatures made of thunder, such as the Jambul, Kitten, and Hino attacks. These living creatures aren't just attacks shaped like an animal, but living beings that behave on their own, even speaking on behalf of the original or moving and dodging attacks, as we see here with Kizaru, where his clones can even name the attacks as well, like the Amano Murakumo. It's possible that perhaps this is simply a natural ability of all Logia users rather than an awakened power, but given how we've only seen the most expert of Logia users using this type of attacks, with many of its weaker users never being able to use them or trying to in any way, it's not a ridiculous assumption to believe that this could be the ultimate stage of Logia awakening. In the case of someone as powerful as Kizaru, his supposed awakening can be pushed to its biggest extent by allowing him to create countless clones that fight on his behalf, pursuing and hunting down Luffy, and yet even if they are defeated, these clones are just but particles of light, making it impossible to seriously harm them and making them very easily expendable soldiers, much like Karasu's crows for example. Hopefully, however, Oda can shine more details about the inner workings of this ability soon enough and confirm if it's really an awakening or not. While we are at it, though, I also wanted to mention something interesting that Vegapunk mentions within this chapter. He says that he doesn't want to let a little girl like Bonnie get killed, and even blames Frankie for not being a responsible adult and letting a kid get harmed like that. Even Saturn referred to Bonnie as a little girl, and the last chapter, Kizaru sarcastically remarked that kids sure grow.
Okay, so this is about Bonnie's age. So this is beyond the Logia Awakening stuff. I like this Logia Awakening idea a lot. I think this is really cool. I would like to see more examples of this in the story, like from all the other Logia users. I just don't know how many of them are actually able to awaken. Like, I would love to know, is there a specific animal that's like tied to the Logia, or do you decide that, right? Is Kizaru choosing to make clones of himself? Is Karasu choosing to make crows or whatever? Can you choose what form that takes? I would imagine that if Akainu awakened his Logia, it would probably look like a giant lava dog or something like that. He probably has like lava dogs and stuff. I don't know. I would assume that like there's animals that are kind of like tied in, but then by that same respect, I guess we don't see Kizaru make a monkey out of light. But then now my mind's going even further. Well, he is a human. So if you're making clones of a human, I mean, humans are a type of ape, right? So technically, Kizaru making clones of himself is him making monkeys out of light. Technically. So that might actually be the case. I don't know. Something to think about. Dealer Joy Boy, thank you for the $2. Says clones could be a barrel of monkeys. Very interesting. Yeah, I would love to see. Like chapter 1. You know how Luffy's in the barrel? I would love to see Kizaru in the barrel and like a million clones pop out. Hellhounds. Yeah, I could see. Yeah, I think it'd be Hellhounds or some shit like that. Joyboy said, you can critique everything. It's not a threat, but people treat it that way. Just keep a positive and fair outlook. Rage bait is entertaining, but it gets toxic real fast. Yep. I agree, brother. I agree. I try and, from the way I see it is if I'm ever going to level a critique, I try and balance out the critique with like, if I have one bad thing to say, I try and find 2 positive things to say. So I don't want to be that guy that's like feels like I'm just like hurling negativity at whatever it is, or like shitting on it, dumping on it, unless I really, really hate the character or the whatever I'm critiquing. But I try and keep like a healthy balance, you know. For every little bit of criticism that you have to level at something, it's also good to maybe try and focus on the positive, see what's good about it. I can definitely find positives in all the things I was just critiquing earlier. I could find positives about all those characters and arc moments and stuff like that. But you know, it's you know, it's part of helping things improve. Like you got to look for the where it can improve. You got to, especially if you're judging something as art. And One Piece, I would say, you know, to some degree should be judged as art and not just as a shonen manga. And there are messages included in the story. There's things included in the writing that Oda is trying to communicate to the reader. And I think it's important to see whether or not he successfully delivered on that. And whenever he does it, I mean, it's a long story, so you're not going to be perfect every single time. But yeah. So this is a cool theory. I like the idea of animals, like, or like being able to create like a living creature out of your element. So I'm going to write that down. And then I'm going, you know what I'm going to do with this board? I'm going to number in order which are my favorites by the end of today. We got one more theory to watch, guys. And I saw some people asking if this was going to be the one we watched in the chat. And like I said, I didn't want to spoil it, but it is. A lot of you guys were right on the money. A lot of you guys are right on the Geo can tell you about Yamato positives. Hey, I already know. I saw those positives plenty of times. If you catch my drift. Yeah, so... Well, I have terrible handwriting on boards like this or whatever. All right, so we got our third video, our third theory and final theory for the evening. This is going to be a little bit longer than the others, but boom! It's about to get spicy! Reassemble Joy Boy! It's about to be that time! Oh!
It was said that Goldie Roger possessed the ability to hear
by Randy Choi. By the GOAT himself, Randy Choi. Big congratulations for getting into the writer's room for Season 2, by the way, my friend. If there's anyone on planet Earth I could think of that deserves it, it's 1000% you. You've been cooking with the OPLA since the very beginning. You've been in their corner since the very beginning. You know what you're talking about. And I couldn't think of a better season to get you involved in than the one with Vivi and Crocodile in it, bro. Oh, man, I'm so happy for you. That must be a dream come true. So congratulations, dude. I'm very excited to watch this video. And just as a little bit of background, this theory, I believe, that Randy made, I think Dax Sake also helped with this one. So this is like a 2-in-1 power hour theory. Reassemble Joy Boy super theory. Let's get into it. Take us away, Randy. Show us how it's done.
It was said that Goldie Roger possessed the ability to hear the voice of all things, that the ancient stones spoke to him. But what if what Roger was hearing wasn't actually a thing at all? What if it was the remnants of something which was once alive?
What's up, y'all? You know what time it is? It's about to be that time.
800 years ago, Nefertari D. Lilly disseminated the poneglyphs, large, unbreakable stones with ancient writing, to the allied nations around the world. Her hope was that centuries later an individual or a group of individuals would come together to read the messages inscribed on each stone to put together the puzzle of the true history, a full account of the atrocities that Emu and their compatriots would have committed so many years prior. Roger and his crew believed themselves to be those individuals, only to find out that they were too early, paving the way for a new generation to come to their own conclusions. Roger was in tune with a power that he couldn't quite comprehend. He could hear the thoughts of the living Neptunians, the Sea Kings, as could Odin. But the interesting thing about Roger's relationship with the poneglyphs is that they spoke to him in a similar manner. He could hear them. The voice of all things treated these stones as if they were alive, and we've seen inanimate objects with souls before. But what if the stones weren't always inanimate? Aside from a deep look at Egyptian mythology, Blackbeard may be a very big clue to this line of thinking, as we put together the puzzle of his desires as well. Specifically, Blackbeard had a plan during the pre-time skip era, one that was executed flawlessly. He has one for the post-time skip, and we have seen enough of the pieces to understand what Hancock's love fruit, Pudding's memory fruit, and his other motives have to do with acquiring the fabled One Piece. Strap in, everybody, because today's super theory came from a recent discussion that I had with fellow YouTuber Dak Sake, and it goes in a ton of wacky directions, but whether it ends up being true or not, I hope that the journey is enjoyable and that this theory sparks something in you, and perhaps you're able to form your own conclusions as to what happened to these stones as well. But first, like, comment, subscribe if you're feeling the vibe.
Already done, brother. I am feeling the vibe.
Archaeology has been a pervasive backbone of One Piece since the introduction of Nika Robin. Her dream was revealed to us in the hidden chasms of the Egypt-inspired Alabasta, surrounded by hieroglyphs.
They should get Randy to play Crocodile. He would cook. He would cook so hard. I seen him in the Crocodile the cosplay, so I already know firsthand. I seen him in person. That I thought I was actually talking to Mr. Zero himself.
And our very first poneglyph. The Egyptians had something similar to poneglyphs in our world as well, although they didn't call them poneglyphs, they called them steles. They were large stones with text, often ominously used as a grave marker or epitaph, which is interesting considering the poneglyphs.
Here's the big twist. Actually, all the steles were just people trying to cheat on their math test in ancient Egypt math class. And they had to write these down. Except they didn't have pens and pencils. They had to use like little things to carve into the stone for their test. So the way they did it is they would make these giant steles and put them outside the classroom window. And they'd look outside and read and cheat off the test. Wow. I don't know. I'm just making shit up.
One Piece detail the death of an old world.
Wouldn't that be crazy if we find out like this mystical shit is all just like some mundane crap? Like it's like someone's record of like I don't know, like some random thing. Like it's someone's like sleep journal from like 2,000 years ago. Like, oh, today I dreamt about floating down the Nile on my back.
For these objects, often the plural would be stela, which when you look at the names should seem very familiar because during the Egghead arc, we have been introduced, finally, to Dr. Vegapunk and his satellites. And what do the satellites refer to Dr. Vegapunk as? The Stella. And what is Dr. Vegapunk doing? What has he been revealed to be doing? He is studying the poneglyphs, the steles. Most have written this name off due to its correlation
I know, we did
with
translate them,
satellites
yeah.
and basically just outer space.
Most of
and
them.
our
Most of them.
world. But with Oda, it's never that simple. With Oda, it can always be both and more. And now we have enough information from recent chapters to put together a rough image of everything. You see, Eiichiro Oda is one of those very rare authors that knew the ending of a story when he started the story. And his most trusted advisors have confirmed that he knows the ending.
And I remember in those meetings, Oda would tell me, hey, so this is the direction One Piece is going to take. This is the message.
I was there.
This is the theme that I want to really convey and communicate through this manga. And everything that he said
I was at
way
this.
back then, when there's only 2 volumes, came true. So he's a man of his word. He had a vision way back then.
私は実はワンピースの最終回まで知ってるんですけれど、なかなかお話ができません。早く最終回迎えてくれないかなと思ってますが、皆さんの楽しみを奪うのもかわいそうなので、いつも悩んでいます。
And I actually know how One Piece is going to end. I know what's going to happen, so I'm not going to spoil anything for you guys, but I can't wait to see everyone's reaction. It's a lot of responsibility right now. It's like at the tip of my tongue, but I'm going to hold it in for your guys' sake.
No matter where Oda chooses to
That's
zig
from my
or zag
phone.
in this
Yeah, it's
story,
my hidden cam. I had it in
is always pointing
my signature hidden camera.
Really
I had it in
expected
my
One
tie,
Piece to
my
last
bartender's
5
tie.
minutes, which means that a lot of what we need to understand about the end of the story is likely at the beginning. This is why so many characters from the first 5 years are becoming prominent again, relevant in such big ways. I'm talking about Shanks, Buggy, Crocodile, Mihawk, and there are 3 characters.
The guy saying that, I
actually
believe, is
probably at the center of
the
all
director
of this,
for
and that's gonna be
Film
Marshall
Red.
D. Teach, Blackbeard, Nefertari D. Vivi,
And the director of the
and
anime.
Nefertari D. Cobra. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about Blackbeard, but first, Vivi and Cobra. Basically, the Alabasta Saga is when we learned about everything. The first poneglyph, Alabasta. The first time we learn about the Void History, Alabasta. The first time an ancient weapon is brought up, Alabasta. The first time we see a Vegapunk invention, believe it or not, Alabasta. And even now, in an
True.
art so focused on science,
True.
the new central character, Dr. Vegapunk, is in trouble for looking into the past. In a story that is a true amalgamation of nearly every religion and mythology known to man, the mythology and cultures of Egypt are almost overpowering and could be the key to the biggest mysteries in the series. More on that after we discuss Blackbeard, the villain who is introduced to us immediately following the Alabasta Saga, but was foreshadowed and really introduced in the arc preceding Alabasta. The entire pre-time skip is us largely watching the world react to Luffy's actions as he traverses the Grand Line, but eventually, it's the actions of Blackbeard that dictate what Luffy is forced to react to. What Luffy does is cute, but Blackbeard's plans actually disrupt the world as we know it. Step 1, get the Yami Yami no Mi. Step 2, find a bargaining chip that he can use to get the world government's favor and make him a warlord. Step 3, open the box of being a warlord and infiltrate Impel Down to get the world's worst criminals to join your crew. Step 4, now with the proper backup, attack Whitebeard and steal his fruit. And step 5, become an emperor after taking over his territory.
I love that. I really love that breakdown of Blackbeard's plan, because that really is like when you simplify it down to like the core tenets of that plan. Yeah, that's it. That is it. Like that and it's genius too in retrospect.
Important to note
Blackbeard's so big brain, bro.
the original bargaining chip that Blackbeard wanted to use,
Which is surprising
was
considering how much of a pinhead he seems to have. But I mean, the dude's got a big noggin, or at least he's hiding something in there. He's got a whole. Here's a Blackbeard theory. Blackbeard's head is actually a black hole. It's actually like an infinite space, and he has just the world's largest brain contained in the world's smallest forehead, and it just happens to work that way because of his devil fruit. Before he ate the Yami Yami, he was actually really stupid. He ate the devil fruit. His mind became limitless. He got a black hole in his head, and now he is able to just be absolutely massive brained at all times, just like me.
Luffy. And fate intervened and gave him Ace. Every step worked, and in ways that were cleaner and more beneficial to Blackbeard than he ever expected. He wins even when he loses. Blackbeard has goals for the post-time skip as well, and it's also important to note that in an SBS, Oda revealed that Blackbeard's favorite hobby and pastime is archaeology. Putting the puzzle of Blackbeard's post-time skip desires should clue us in to the end game of this story. We don't understand the order yet, but we do know that Blackbeard is after the One Piece, and he's stealing rubbings to get there. As an archaeologist, he should know how to make rubbings himself, which is a real-world practice. They're called squeeze copies. You lay a wet piece of paper over the steelies, press firmly against it, and you get what we call a rubbing.
A rubbing, yeah.
Now, just like before, he also...
Thank you for the $10 donation, D. LaJoy Boy. Appreciate it, bro. He said, don't know if you have seen Drock Show, but he is making his mom read One Piece. Mom Piece. I swear, with her thoughts early on, she'll spoil us on the end for real. Really? That sounds sick. I'll have to check that out. I appreciate the recommendation. Thank you, Ren. That sounds like a cool... I would love to see that.
wants to use a bargaining chip to gain the favor of the higher-ups in Marijoa. He wants to position himself and make Hachinosu an actual recognized state. Initially, it looked like Blackbeard was going to use Kobe to get that seat at the table. But just like in the pre-time skip, a bait and switch has happened in the story where it looks like he may be trying to use Garp instead. Blackbeard needs Pudding, either for her memory powers or for her to awaken her third eye and be able to read the poneglyphs. Another fun fact about the real world is that many cultures believe that you can open your third eye through hypnotism.
I was going to say
And
the same thing,
Blackbeard just so
Digital
happens
Addict,
have
to Joy
a
Boy.
hypnotist on his crew.
That sounds wrong.
Blackbeard took an interest in Moria's fruit and even used Absalom to bring him out of hiding. The higher-ups in Marijoa at the end of Marineford also seemed very interested in Moria and his ability as well. But most important of all, and most interesting of all, is that Marshall D. Teach has an extremely vested interest in the Mero no Mi, Hancock's love fruit. And he deemed it so important that he traveled to Amazon Lily himself and was ready to fight the Marines to get that fruit, but not Rayleigh. Is it because Rayleigh may be able to see through Blackbeard's plan? Is he one of the few people that actually knows what the true importance of the love fruit is? What do these things have in common, and what is the larger picture at play? Blackbeard asks Hancock straight out if her ability can be used to depetrify a previous user's work. Some feel this implies that he wants to depetrify a person, perhaps Rox D. Zebek. Well, what if they're half right? What if he wants to depetrify a person that is quite literally a rock? If the voice of all things can be heard from the poneglyphs, could they at one point have been a person? Instead of reading the poneglyphs, could Pudding's memory powers be used to extract memories from within the stones to reveal the void history? Could they work on objects if she awakens? Could the giant hat at Marijoa be what he wants access to? Could Pudding's memo fruit be used to extract memories of Joy Boy from the hat? Most have been led to believe that Joy Boy was some sort of a giant. A lot of things are pointing towards that. One that actually did eat Luffy's Hito no Mi model Nika. Now, due to all of the snake imagery in One Piece and the Shandians worshipping a literal giant blue snake as the avatar of the sun god, I've had a theory that he, or one of the gods from the Void Century, maybe even Emu, was quite literally a blue snake or snake-like dragon that ate a fruit and became a animal-human hybrid like Chopper. Link for that video below. Was Lily's last-ditch attempt to save this world a pact with Joy Boy, where he, a giant being, offered himself or sacrificed himself to be the literal carrier of the message of the future?
That's cool.
That the poneglyph language was actually some sort of a tattoo written on his skin by the Koski before or after
Which poneglyph is Joy Boy's nuts?
being petrified by the Mero.
No, I'm sorry. I saw the opportunity, and I had to go there. But no, that's actually a really cool idea. So I like this idea of first off, the real identity of Joy Boy being known to Blackbeard, and Blackbeard already going out of his way to gather what he needs to bring the truth out of them, while Luffy is going about it with the traditional method of obviously carrying Robin around, reading all the poneglyphs. So this goes a step into it, right? Because in the past, we've always seen how Luffy and Blackbeard obviously are two guys that go about the same thing but in different ways or in opposite ways. And Blackbeard is always kind of like a step ahead of Luffy in that sense, where he knows a little bit more about the world, he knows more about the nature of things, he clearly already knows on his own about Lunarians, some stuff related to the Void Century. So the way I see it is like, in this situation, that would make a lot of sense. If Luffy is going about deciphering the poneglyphs in the traditional method, the method that, let's say, the Roger pirates used with Odin and all that stuff, he's going about it the normal way, the official pirate way. And Blackbeard is going about it with this like underhanded method of like kidnapping people, having someone that can maybe depetrify him, pull the memories out, like completely undoing the original purpose of the poneglyphs. Because if you think about it this way, you know, if Joy Boy's goal was to pass the message on to the future through this, then Blackbeard is kind of undoing that, because in reassembling him, or in attempting to pull the memories out, or whatever he's doing right now with Pudding and so on and so forth, it could be that he's undoing that work from the Void Sentry of passing the message forward. He's kind of taking it all for himself in that respect. So I think it's an interesting dichotomy between just the journey of gathering the poneglyphs and putting the whole story together. Even the nature of that is different between him and Luffy. Prior to this, I'd always assumed that all pirates have to go about finding the poneglyphs in the same way, translating them, finding the message, putting it all together, finding the One Piece that way. But it's clear that Blackbeard has always been the type to find some other back, what is the word I'm looking for? Like some backdoor method to get the same result. And to me, this would be the perfect way to make that happen. So I do like this a lot. I like that idea a lot. And I think, for me, whether or not Joy Boy is a snake guy or like some sort of dragon deity or a giant, I err more on the side of giant between the two. Only because I feel like Oda tends to do that with the most important characters in his story tend to be larger than life, and they're depicted as larger than life. I guess you could do the por qué no los dos, right? Why can't you have a dragon man also be a giant? I guess that makes sense. But the way I'm thinking about it is like Oda always makes his characters larger than life. So who is the largest, most larger than life character out there? That would be Joy Boy, right? That would be whoever the original was. So I see him being large.
The ancient races of this world drawn to tattoos, Lunarians, Shandians, could Dragon's tattoo be in some way relevant to all of this? Was the petrified Joy Boy split up by the Opi Opi no Mi? That would explain the cube shape of the poneglyphs, and the red poneglyphs could perhaps be indicative of the 4 chambers of the heart. Alternatively, having Buggy's Bara Bara fruit be intensely important to the Void history within this context would be a great meta joke and solid reasoning for why Roger would have sought after it, why it was on his ship, and it's more fun to me and holds more weight than it being Law's fruit, personally. Some of you might be saying, Buggy, what does Buggy have to do with any of this? Yeah, I get it. Law's fruit makes more sense because we've actually seen him chop things up and move them around at will within his room. But as we've now seen with Gear 5, Luffy, a rubber man, is able to unnaturally force rubber properties onto objects and his opponents. It's my belief that should Buggy learn to awaken, it would be the same principle. A man who can split himself into pieces would then be able to split objects and other people,
Buggy would
essentially
be terrifying.
granting him a key component of Law's powers, allowing the second Devil Fruit that we ever saw in the story to be intensely involved in the endgame.
That's cool too.
Alternatively, learning that Joy Boy himself never had the Nika Fruit, but rather the Bara Bara, and split himself up for the cause would be some fun irony, but it makes far more sense if someone close to Joy Boy, maybe even his right hand or best friend, had the Bara Bara, and Joy Boy trusted them to safely divide him into 30 pieces for the cause. This idea of being split up ties directly into Egyptian mythology. Now, I want to get into the story of Osiris, which is a very interesting Egyptian tale.
I don't know
Osiris was a prolific ruler of Egypt and a descendant of the sun god Ra. Yes, sun god, but that's not the focus here, nor is the fact that Osiris's soul was its own god, the ram god. Osiris was a god of fertility and a benevolent ruler of Egypt. His brother Set was jealous of him and organized a silent coup in the disguise of a giant party complete with a party game. Whoever could fit inside this chest gets a wonderful prize. The chest was designed with Osiris's exact measurements in mind, so he wins. Everybody at the party seals up the chest and sends it down the Nile. The chest eventually washes up on the shores of Byblos, and the wood of the chest grows into a gigantic, majestic tree. Osiris's wife, Isis, teams up with Set's wife, Nephtet, to search for his body. She comes upon the tree and eventually is able to extricate him. Naturally, he's dead. She decides to search for a way to resurrect her husband. While she's gone, Set finds Osiris's body, chops it up into pieces, and throws it back into the Nile once more. Isis then goes on a new journey to reassemble her husband's remains for a proper burial. But ultimately, all of her trusted companions end up with little pieces of him to remember him. Now imagine a one-pieceified version of the Osiris tale where Set is Emu.
Okay.
And Joy Boy, or perhaps even the original Nika that the fruit is based on, was Osiris. That they ran the ancient kingdom, were betrayed by Set, thrown into a chest, drowned, and became a giant tree. And what if that is the origin of devil fruits to begin with? That all fruits are born from Nika. We owe everything to desire, creating an eventual callback to Chapter 1 when we see the Nika fruit in a chest, just as the original Nika, Joy Boy, Osiris was left in a chest. Another callback to the early parts of the story is Gaimon, a character who fits so perfectly inside of a chest that Oda had to have been thinking about this back then. And not only did he become friends with Luffy, he also became friends with Buggy. Nefertari D. Lily plays the role of either Isis or Neftet, searching for the remains of perhaps a lost love or just a friend. But the twist on the story is that the one who was responsible for splitting Joy Boy into 30 pieces and distributing him amongst the allies would have been Lily's idea, or perhaps even Joy Boy's dying wish. Nefertari D. Vivi has been linked time and time again to the Niku fruit, Kuma's fruit. In an SBS, someone brought up what is now known as the 2-9 theory, where every member of the Straw Hats had a fruit that could be converted into a number in Japanese, all but 2 numbers. Ni, Q. Literally 2 and 9. 2 in Japanese is Ni and 9 is Q. Can't get any more literal than that. The Niku no Mi is the 2-9 fruit. Vivi was on the title page, the cover page of the chapter that the Niku was introduced to us. Their partner in Baroque Works was Mr. 9, and their birthday is 2-2. There are a lot of
really? That's sick.
Just damning
I didn't know.
evidence that
I didn't even
Vivi
put that together. Holy
end
shit!
Up with this fruit at some point.
Wait, that's
but
cool.
Maybe it was never meant to be about Vivi at all, and that it's actually that Lily is the original user of this fruit. How else were the poneglyphs sent to all of the allied nations? If she had the paw fruit, they go exactly where they need to go immediately. And maybe that's also why the sea cat is a revered species in Alabasta, because it reminds the citizens of Lily, who would have had paws.
Oh, this is so smart. I love that. Yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense. Like the Niku no Mi going to Vivi. Especially now with what's happening with Kuma, like he's probably going to die soon, right? Damn.
On her hands. We were told that the poneglyphs were made on Wano. So that stage is the setting for Nefertari D. Lily's great mistake, as Emu liked to refer to it as, right? So we cannot understate the importance of Wano in the story, and Shanks was so sure that Blackbeard would go there, which is why he went there, expecting to intervene in whatever Blackbeard needed to do there. And a weird correlation here is that Wano is the home of the continent pullers, and Blackbeard's flag has 3 skulls, just like Orz's belt had 3 skulls. And Wano is one of the only lands outside of Punk Hazard, which was man-manipulated. Wano is the only place that we've seen multiple climates. And on the way to Drum, Vivi explained that every island only has one climate, one traditional climate. Is Wano literally just several allied nations that have been stitched or sewn together by maybe the Ito no Mi Doflamingo's fruit or Leo's Stitch fruit, and then carried by an ancient Oni, some sort of giant being, maybe Joy Boy, and put on top of a mountain, creating a new Pangea which, for those who don't know, Pangea is what the world in its most
I
ancient
never even
primordial form was called.
I never even thought about making Wano as like a microcosm for like the whole Pangea idea. That's also a really crazy connection that never came to mind. That's so cool.
Everything was still one landmass. We know that the Ors
And it ties into the
Jr. at
reassemble
Marineford was
idea, right?
Ors the Third, right? But what was the Thriller Bark Ors? Because we don't really have a firm understanding of that. Was it Ors the First? Was it Ors the Second? Was he Joy Boy's son? Maybe was Joy Boy the senior, the one before the Ors that Moria had manipulated? Could it be that the reason Blackbeard was interested in Moria and the Kage Shadow Fruit is because he wants to take the poneglyphs, stitch them together, and then put a shadow into it and reanimate it? All of that would make Thriller Bark even more thematically relevant, and also Marineford, because then you would have the distant relative of Joy Boy, Ors Jr., trying to save the brother of the current Joy Boy. Or is Joy Boy less of a reincarnation situation like Poseidon and more of a Club Waterman? We learned of the 21 grams of the soul. Could Lily with the Niku fruit have pushed Joy Boy's soul out of his body, creating a Club Waterman that was free to fly around and search for or possess a worthy successor? Is that why Kaido or someone like Rox or King, people that were close to Kaido, possibly believed that he could have been the return of Joy Boy? Also going back to the blue snake of it all. A dragon can be a blue snake, similar to Kashi, the image that the Shandians were worshipping. Could Ace have been at one point the ideal candidate? Did Kaido know that? Is that why he tried to interfere with Marineford and Shanks, for whatever reason, stopped him? Did Shanks know about this? And perhaps there's a situation where Shanks wanted Ace to die so that his horse could become the new Joy Boy. Could it be a situation that when Ace died, the soul that may have been in Ace, which is why Roger was so sure that his son would be the new Joy Boy, or at least he believed it to be, that soul then went and found Luffy. There's a key moment right before Luffy goes Gear 5 where, he's about to lose against Kaido and he pushes his energy, his haki, back inside. But is that his haki? Is that his power? Could he have been pushing Joy Boy's soul back inside and taking control and saying, that no, he's the worthy successor? Was the soul of Joy Boy trying to escape and find a new successor, thinking that Luffy wasn't worthy in that moment?
Damn.
Was it not haki, but a manifestation of
I got
Joy
another
Boy's
out-of-pocket
soul?
joke for this one.
Inherit-
That means Joy Boy is the town bicycle. Everyone gets a ride. This guy's hopping. Oh, man. Joy Boy's for the streets, bros. I'm just saying. He's trying to leave Luffy after that. Trying to dip to Kaido just because Kaido's winning. Yeah, Joy Boy belongs to the streets. Not you, not Joy Boy theories. The One Piece Joy Boy.
will. Tangible.
That ain't right.
There's a visual
That ain't
link
right.
between these
No
moments.
loyalty these days,
A
man.
lot of Thriller Bark with the shadows, the Kage no Mi, even Blackbeard's Yami Yami no Mi.
Oh, no.
And now, with Imu's yet to be explained abilities as well. Wano will be important to all of this. There's a
Damn.
reason why Toki needed to get back to Wano. A reason why she also left. It's the land where
Not
all of
you,
this
not you.
transpired 800 years ago. It's where Lily likely went to hide from Imu, where a plan for the stones was devised. The Kozli clan wrote the poneglyph language. They are very much the tattoo artists in this scenario. But was Big Mom's line, "It's here, isn't it?" part of the One Piece, referring to the idea that the 30 poneglyphs are the body of Joy Boy. And if Joy Boy was an ancient Oni instead of a snake, a cool idea has been that Onigashima is the original Joy Boy's skull, leading to the decisive battle of Luffy and Kaido over who is or isn't the true Joy Boy, taking place on the literal Joy Boy's skull. And if Joy Boy did lose his head in some sort of way, it could be a parallel and callback to Logtown, where Luffy, aka Joy Boy, was about to get his head lopped off, especially if Buggy's fruit becomes important in the Void History flashback. All of this to say, is the point of this story to reassemble the poneglyphs, to reassemble Joy Boy into one piece.
Yeah. And you
Every
know,
portrayal that we've ever seen of the poneglyphs,
I'll
they
let
are
him go,
all
hold on.
connected by some sort of thread tying them together. So maybe this is a massive group effort that is necessary to actually pull this feat off. That one man may not be able to do it on their own, right? Buggy and Law may have to move the pieces back together into a shape of a person. Doflamingo, his string fruit is used as the sinew or string that ties it all together. Hancock depetrifies once it's in the shape of a person, Moria adds a shadow, and Pudding awakens the memories. We're getting wacky.
that's a recipe.
That is used for the memory aspect of this. We got a curious flashback between Vegapunk and Kuma talking about the Nikyu's ability to extract memories similar to Pudding's ability. If it's not the case with literally being Joy Boy, could each of the stones have a voice because the memories of Void Century allies were inserted inside the rocks? Keeping the Pudding aspect of it all very relevant because she still should be able to extract those memories if that's the case. Is Blackbeard sending troops to Egghead because S-Snake is there and has a reproduction of the Mero Mero no Mi, which we know he wants? Does he want one of the Vegapunks? York? They could recreate it. Does he have an interest in the Nikyu? If the fruits were to fall into the hands of Blackbeard, then perhaps he would have all the necessary pieces to reassemble Joy Boy. Many of these key powers belong to the original warlords. We're talking Hancock, Kuma, Moria, Doflamingo. Was that the original point of the balance of powers in the first place? Not so much to use them for peacekeeping, but to keep them close and on a leash. And now that they have the Seraphim, their importance is irrelevant. We know that 3 of the Seraphim are on their way to attack
Randy,
the
you're
Crossguard,
cooking, my dude.
and that
I'm loving
green
this.
blood cannot replicate the properties of a Logia Devil Fruit. Imagine a scenario where the Cross Guild is up against S Crocodile. Out of nowhere, Mihawk jumps in, slices him in half easily. Everybody's cheering, and then S Crocodile puts himself back together, signaling that the green blood infused with him is actually Buggy's Devil Fruit, enraging Crocodile that his DNA would ever be entangled with this buffoon. S Croc would then dart forward and attack someone else in the Cross Guild, but in the process would split them into pieces, but they would still be alive. Everyone turns
Law's
to Buggy.
power.
Your power can do that? And that is how Buggy
Oh,
learns
wait, well,
about the
oh.
untapped potential.
Was this S Croc or S Hawk? Is it S Hawk with Buggy's powers? Okay, I might have been miss. I thought there was a whole separate element with S Croc, but we have S Croc's power already, don't we? I don't know. Anyway,
Your power can do that? And that is how Buggy learns about the untapped potential of his abilities, leading to his potential role for the endgame. Now, I've been against this idea because no one in the government even knew that Buggy had a fruit during Impel Down, so getting his DNA is a question of logic, but it sort of is for a lot of the Seraphim. Plus, I'm still team S Croc has a Vonkov's fruit, but I'm coming around to this Buggy idea just because of how well it fits into this
S Croc
theory.
using the bar.
Perhaps
Wait,
Shanks
okay.
was wrong
That
about
makes sense.
Blackbeard going to Wano because he couldn't until he had those necessary pieces, until he had the Mero Mero in hand. Meaning that once Blackbeard does have these pieces of his plan, he may still have to go to Wano, leaving a story-relevant reason for Oda to have Yamato stay behind. Is it all for Pluton, or is there more to all of this? Blackbeard becoming a warlord was about access in the pre-time skip era. He needed that access in order to infiltrate Impel Down. Making Hachinosu a recognized state and kidnapping Kobe and everything with Garp in order to get that should be viewed from the same lens, as it would give Blackbeard access to Marijoa. Is this all for the giant Straw Hat? Does Blackbeard know about it? Is it one of the missing pieces of this puzzle? Could it be that you can't fully reassemble Joy Boy without it? When Oars was rampaging around Thriller Bark, he wasn't comfortable without his hat. Could it be a similar issue? Could the Niku have imbued a piece of Joy Boy into the hat? Is that why the government has never been overly concerned with someone really finding the One Piece? Because without this crucial missing piece, everyone would be too early, making it less about a prophesized date and more that Roger, because of his illness, just literally ran out of time. Could the ancient robot under Egghead be a counter to Blackbeard's plans? Could the idea of reassembling Joy Boy like Osiris be too crazy even for One Piece, even with powers like the Kage Kage? Or could Blackbeard's idea of recreating and reassembling Joy Boy be another example of Blackbeard cheating to get to the end? Essentially, Blackbeard would be using all of these factors and bending these wills to literally restore the past, whereas Luffy, through hard work and sheer determination, has revived the spirit of Joy Boy, making it so that he would never have to reassemble the pieces at all, because Luffy is Joy Boy, incarnate. Blackbeard seems to be after these rocks in the name and vein of famed pirate Rox D. Zebek. His ship, the Saber of Zebek. Did Rox say something at God Valley that made its way back to Blackbeard? But Blackbeard is taking what is being said too literally. That the goal was never to put the pieces literally back together, but that the world would belong to the one who unites the world with what the pieces represent. Simply put, no matter what, each stone has a message. And reassembling that puzzle should tell us the story of the true history, which in turn would make the ills of the world known, revealing the atrocities that Emu committed to control this world. After passing the information to every nation via maybe Vegapunk's internet, or perhaps Vivi's new connection to Big News Morgan's, the very biggest news possible would go out to every country, sparking the revolution of a lifetime, where now all of these countries would head out to bust down Pangaea Castle's doors, the flames of revolution lit by Nico Robin's translations, and the trust that the people have for Nefertari D. Vivi spreading this message would lead to the toppling of the government by the Pirate King and freest man in the world, Monkey D. Luffy, ultimately uniting the world and creating One Piece. P-E-A-C-E.
Very nice. All right. Well, first off, I want to say, Randy, that was great. I really enjoyed that. There are things I like about the idea, and I was going off on a little bit of a ramble before of like all the implications this could hold for Blackbeard and his journey versus Luffy and his journey. That I really like. I like how that slots in. I think it works. Another thing I like about it is that it really recontextualizes and gives extra added purpose to the whole idea of the Rio Poneglyph, because it feels like the Rio Poneglyph has kind of fell into the background. It doesn't really have a purpose in the story so much as it used to, now that we have the road poneglyphs that we're chasing, right? Because now all we care about as a crew and as viewers is like, okay, when's the next road poneglyph? How are we getting to Laugh Tale? We got to put the 4 road poneglyphs together. We've kind of forgotten about that secret background side quest of like reassembling the Rio Poneglyph or whatever. To me, this is like a perfect way to bring that back into the forefront of the story. And I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, didn't this entire idea come up? Did it come up back in Alabasta or Skypiea that the Rio Poneglyph was first mentioned? I think it was Skypiea. But this would, like you were saying earlier, a lot of these things from the beginning of the story are being reconnected into the current events, and I think that would be a great way to bring that old idea back, because that was pretty much the original goal of the Poneglyphs, at least for Robin, was to reassemble the Rio Poneglyph or whatever. And that's just, now that the road Poneglyphs are on the table, we kind of just don't care about that anymore. So this would be a great way to do that. There are things. Was it Alabasta? Okay, yeah, Alabasta. Yeah, so that's really early. I mean, that's everything is Alabasta. So there you go. Like everything connects back, right? Into that arc. And now that that arc is being kind of like brought back for the final saga, or at least all the elements from that are being brought back, that would make sense to me. One thing I'm not in agreement with completely is the idea that Joy Boy would have to be reassembled to like solve the issues of the world. I could see it being that Joy Boy passed on, like he used himself to pass the message forward, and that's the end of it. And Joy Boy's at least will is carried on through the Devil Fruit, or through that power, through Nika's power. But because we already have a Joy Boy with Luffy, and we have this power that's already pretty much emblematic of the original Joy Boy being represented through Luffy's abilities, reassembling him might not exactly, even if this is the case for the background on how the poneglyphs were made, I don't know if reassembling him would be entirely necessary to fix anything, if Luffy's already, being the second coming of Joy Boy. So for me, I guess the way it could be framed, though, is like he's not meant to be reassembled, but someone like Blackbeard, I think, which is what you mentioned, he's going out of his way to reassemble him, maybe because of something he heard from Rocks, which leads me to the other thing I'm not totally in agreement with, is that if this is the case, and Rocks knew something about the nature of the poneglyphs and Joy Boy and how he connects to the poneglyphs, if this is Joy Boy separated into many pieces, and if you could extract the memories from the poneglyphs, if Blackbeard would know something about that by virtue of having a connection to Rocks, I would assume that any of the major Rocks pirates would also have that sort of knowledge, including Big Mom. And the reason why I like that you mentioned that Big Mom questioned at the end of the arc, could some of it be here in Wano? That makes sense. It's because I've wondered about that too. What is she talking about? Is the One Piece in more than one piece right now? That would lend itself well to your theory. But the problem I have with it is, if Big Mom would know this, why wouldn't she use Pudding's powers, the memory related part of Pudding's abilities, to extract the memories of the poneglyph that she has? Because she's sitting around, according to Big Mom, she's been sitting around for years waiting for Pudding to awaken the third eye. So that what is the purpose? So that she can read the poneglyphs. She can't get anything out of the poneglyphs without that third eye. So to me, it's weird that Big Mom's been waiting around for that when she's had a power as useful as the memory ability. I guess the only answer I could give to that is that, she just doesn't know. But in which case, how would she not know at all? And Blackbeard, who was a baby at the time of Rocks, does. So that's the only thing, like, I'm trying to figure out how I would timeline this, or what characters should actually know anything about this, like if this was like a big deep secret hidden in the way that the Void Century played out and what the poneglyphs are. I'm just wondering if anyone knows about it besides maybe Blackbeard knows, but I don't know if anyone else does. This would have to be like one of the most closely kept secrets in the entire story, considering, as far as I can tell, everyone sees the poneglyphs as just rocks with words on them. So yeah, I mean, the only person I would put my money on that does know something is Blackbeard, because that's like up his alley. So yeah, there's like elements of this that I think there's a good shot there, right? And there's other elements of this that I'm like, I need a little bit more. They need to be a little bit more flexible, or maybe Oda might have to do a little bit of writing to make some of these details work, to write them into making them fit. But I do like the theory overall. I like the concept. I think Dak brought it up with me a while ago. He mentioned something about like the idea of like maybe reassembling Joy Boy. I remember when I first thought of it, I was like, wow, that's a crazy concept. But when you put it this way, Randy, I gotta say it does make sense, and I do like the idea. I don't know if reassembling him is going to be pivotal to the actual way the modern day Joy Boy saves the world. But I mean, aside from that, I think it works. So yeah, that was a great video. That was definitely my favorite of the three. I know I said I was going to number everything, but let me put this in a legible marker. Be crazy though if every poneglyph was like a solidified, like stonified part of Joy Boy, that's crazy. But like I was saying earlier, like that whichever country got stuck with Joy Boy's nuts is the Joy Boy balls poneglyph. That must have meant that they weren't in the good graces of Lily back then, because that's cooked. If I was running like what was it, the Hamburger Kingdom, or no, it was President Hamburger. I don't even remember the one that looks like Uncle Sam. I was running the Hamburger Kingdom, and they sent me a nice care package of Joy Boy's petrified balls. I'm sorry. Let me write this down. Hold on. All I'm saying is that's a big tell as to how much Lily and Joy Boy liked you, depending on which parts get mailed to you. All right, Randy's theory, reassemble. All right, so I'm going to give you my personal ranking before we do the chat voting on the theory of the day. I have a feeling this one will take it, but I don't want to influence that, because let you guys have your own opinions. But I'm going to just number my favorites in order today. I think one. So Randy's theory definitely gets my number one spot for this theory review. Well, you guys can't see, really. It's probably really hard to see. There you go. That might be better. The green marker is completely illegible, I'm realizing now. I apologize. That's the Rio poneglyph right there. Thank you for playing along with my my degeneracy. All right, hold on. I'm a degen sometimes. I'm sorry, guys. I gotta crack the jokes when I see them. When they come to me, I can't forget them. All right. So the next two, yeah. So the other two theories we watched for the runner-up spot is going to be hard for me to decide. I just want to kind of reflect on that. So Sawyer's theory was that the egghead incident is going to go down in a couple possible ways, and it's going to be onset by the Straw Hats being infiltrated by Katarina Devon and potentially Saturn, coming onto the island and something potentially happening to Saturn. Maybe he takes him out of commission, he dies, something that's going to set off some major headlines. So I think that's a cool idea. The only thing is, I do wish we had a little bit more supporting evidence in that video. I know it's kind of like a chapter response theory, but I don't know. I like I said, I like the concepts on the surface. I just feel like he didn't expand on them too much, and it's hard for me to find a clear through line from the beginning to the end of the video of like what's the thesis and how is he supporting it. So I guess I have to give Artur the number 2 spot, although I really do like Sawyer's content, and I do think some interesting ideas came up there. But since we have to tier stuff today, because that's the format of the stream, that's what we're doing. So it's 3, 2, and 1. Artur got the runner-up. Randy got my number 1 spot. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put up a vote for you guys to vote on the theory of the day. Let me quickly type this out, and then I'll do some catching up on chat in the meantime. Theory of the day. There's too many enemies in Robin's stream to find Joy Boy's nuts. No way. I'm glad we did this today, though. This was fun. I enjoyed all those videos. It hasn't been because I haven't done one of these recently with the the theory reviews. It's been like months. So I've been kind of missing out on all the new theories that have been coming out, like what people have been thinking up. It's cool to see, man. I've been out of the loop a little bit. I spent like the last week thinking about nothing besides Akainu, and you know, he's not really relevant to the story at the moment, aside from that one chapter recently. So it's good to talk about more current stuff, more relevant ideas. I gotta say, I hope we get an update soon on Vivi and Wapol. I need that update, man. I need that, like, ASAP. I was rereading some of the earlier chapters from Egghead this past week, and I hit the what happened at Marijois, Sabo seeing everything go down with Emu and Cobra, and then Vivi escaping with Wapol, and now Vivi's like there with Big News Morgans. That was a crazy sequence of events, and I almost feel like it completely fell into the back of my mind since that happened. And now that it's like been brought back to the forefront, bro, man, I need more Vivi. Bring Vivi back. I need another chapter soon. 1103, that's your prediction? You know what? Let me write that down as a reminder. Once we get to 1103, I'm gonna see if it happens. I'm looking forward to that. Math piece, baby. Randy hitting me with the math piece in real time. I love that. What's up, Rubix? He said I missed most of the stream. Dang, hope everyone's doing good today. Likewise, brother. I'm doing good. Seems like everyone's doing good. So, but yeah, thanks for making it at least. Joyboy said, Morge dropped that Admirals versus Yonko video. Akainu's next for me, I think. Yeah, bro, this is hot, or what is the time? Like, this is a hot time to talk about the Admirals. This is like the Admiral, like, boom right now. It's a hot topic. It's like right on everyone's mind. So you definitely go for that, man. 1,000 chapters from her introduction. Oh yeah, right. Yeah, that makes sense. 1103, because she was like right into the Grand Line she got introduced. Oh, that makes so much sense. I'm gonna write that down too. I'm gonna keep an eye out for that, Randy. When that chapter rolls up, that's gonna be on my desk, staring me in the face. Just keep an eye out for Vivi 1103. I'm hyping that, bro. I'm hyping that up. Plastic Bag asked, hi Hidden Island, off-topic question, did you produce the intro animation to your vids yourself, or did you have some help? I mean the extended one. I love it, also love your vids. Thank you very much. That was not me who did the animation. That was all Lee J Animation. You'll see him sometimes in the chat. I also have him linked in a bunch of my video descriptions. He did the whole animation for my channel intro. He's an absolute legend. He's a great animator, great illustrator, and a great guy. Highly recommend checking out his stuff. And if you're ever looking to commission something, do hit him up. He does great work, and he works really like a lot quicker than you'd think too, considering I don't want to put that added pressure on him. You know, people are gonna come to, hey, I heard you could do an opening in like a month or whatever. But you know, I just want to say that like he's really good at what he does. Is basically what I'm trying to say. So you know, definitely hit him up or check out his stuff. Lee J Animation, Leejay. Dude's a goat. Yeah, but yeah, let's see how the poll's doing. It looks like, I mean, I'm not surprised here. Randy's cooking this poll this week. Let me pop this out. Let me see if I can pull this up onto the stream so you guys can see the live results in the VOD, because I know I got a bunch of VOD watchers that are going to be catching this later. Yeah, so Randy's strong in the lead right now. I'm going to call it at... I don't know, we're at 45 votes right now. So guys, if you can throw a vote in, we have like 168 viewers. Let's try and get the votes up to like, I don't know, 70-ish. So only half of you guys need to throw a vote in. It just takes a click. Would appreciate it. Also like the stream if you haven't already. So we're gonna lock in the results, and then I'm gonna hand out the trophy for this theory review. In the meantime, I'll actually Google the trophy. I actually gotta make a trophy for theory review. Like, I gotta make, not like a physical one, but like an image that's like the award, you know? Yeah, usually, I always pick like a stock image of a generic trophy. I just Google trophy, and that's usually what I do. Okay. Now this one's good. I like this one. We need some votes, guys. Get those votes in. But yeah, so yeah, a lot of interesting ideas have come up today. I think depending on how the next chapter goes, a lot of theories are going to either be boosted or hurt regarding the admirals, especially mine. I'm ready for another admiral chapter personally. I think we're not done with that yet, but I think we're gonna get some more Kizaru next chapter. We might even get a little bit more Akainu next chapter, I'm hoping, unless that's just another thing that's gonna be left hanging for a while. But I'm anticipating either some big news or some theory-shattering news next chapter. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. I just kind of feel it. And yeah, so we got that next week. So the poll's doing 61, almost there. 8 votes away. 8 votes away. Very close. I'm just gonna lock it in there because it's already a big lead. I'll be honest, it doesn't even seem like 7 votes is gonna change the landscape of this vote here. So I'm just gonna kind of call it, I'll be honest. Unless you guys want to do some last minute, just like, boom, throw in, like dump 15 votes or something. I don't think that's gonna happen. So. Oh, right, Parr's got to defend his title. We'll do that next on the next one. I'm sorry, I completely forgot about that. I forgot that we had that system of like defending your title. Well, I'll bring back. What that means is for the next theory review, we got to bring back Parr because he was the champ of the previous one, and then we'll bring back Randy because he's the champ of this one, and then we'll have two of their theories, and then a third thrown into the mix. All right, well, before I call, let me just see what Randy said here. He said, Akainu is left hanging, but I'm predicting he'll have a role in the sorbet flashback. Yeah, I think the sorbet flashback is going to be a huge thing for him. I'm definitely getting that feeling now, like especially after, I don't know why he's like spending so much time thinking about his interaction with Bonnie, but it just gives me the impression that there's something he's holding on to there that we don't know. So I agree with you there. I'll be sad to see him left hanging, but I guess that's kind of like, you know, par for the course of this character at this point. Oh yeah, you know, the thing is though, I've already seen Math Piece, Rubik's. I would love to bring back Math Piece for the next one, but I mean, I guess we could. For anyone that hasn't seen it, it's just not going to be the most like raw reaction. But it was great. It was a great video. All right, well, I'm just going to lock it in here. So that means the results are in. The results are officially in, guys. This week, we have a new winner of Theory Review. And hold on. I have to award the trophy to our man, Randy Troy. Congratulations. You just won the Theory Review number 6. You did it, my man. I love the video. It was a great video. Here's this JPEG of a man handing a trophy that I wish I could give you physically, but I'm too cheap and I don't have any. But I did love the video, and it was great, and you are the new champion. You're our 6th champ, well, we haven't had a new champion every week, but you're the new champion. Congratulations. I love your videos, Randy. Keep cooking. Keep doing what you do. Everyone loves it. We all appreciate you greatly. Congratulations. That was awesome. So there you go. That is the finale of this week's theory review. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. Thank you guys for being here today in the chat, being a part of this. Thank you to all the wonderful super chats that were sent in, all the support for the newest video. Thank you to all the people who made the videos that we watched today. Great content. Yeah, guys, absolutely. If you like the theory, please go like, share, subscribe, check out. If you somehow haven't seen Randy's videos before today, do yourself a favor and go sub to his channel. And like he said in the chat, share the theory around, get it out there. Get people talking about this. I think this is an idea we should be talking about. This is hype. This is new. It's refreshing. So yeah, thank you guys for making great content. Thank you for providing me with something to watch and enjoy today. And I appreciate everyone that was here. So let me just answer a few questions before I get going. I do gotta wrap things up. D. LaJoy Boy, thank you for the $2. He said, did you want to check out mine before you went? I'm sorry. I'm kind of pressed for time. Like I said, give me a tag. I'm going to read it tonight. Once I get some downtime later in the afternoon, I will sit down and read the theory. Just make sure to tag me in it, and I promise I will check it out, my friend. Oh, Randy says Joy Boy Theories will be the Theory for Theory guest next Sunday. That's going to be hype too. So if you guys are interested in seeing two of the GOATs, you know, in the arena talking, that's going to be sick to see. So make sure to tune in for that. Yeah, real quick, Homer asked, when is the next one? I'm new. I usually do these on break week. Whenever we don't have a new chapter to discuss, this is usually how I pad out the week. And I do a theory review whenever we don't have a chapter. Basically, it's break week content. So, yes. All right, so guys, this Sunday, make sure to check out the Theory for Theory with Randy and Joy Boy. Make sure to go check out Randy's videos. Make sure to also go check out Sawyer's videos and Artur's videos as well. They were all featured today, and they all made some very fun stuff and interesting content. So, guys, with that being said, I am going to head out. I got some errands to run, and I got to wrap up the day on my end. So I hope everyone enjoyed the stream today. Thank you all for being here and stopping by, showing some love in the chat. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you on the next stream, which I believe will be it's a new chapter. We got another chapter next week. So until then, I hope you guys all have a great night, a wonderful day, and a fantastic romance dawn. I will catch you later, and peace out.